Chapter 342. My king. Chihua's eyes flashed with excitement. He stepped forward, bent his four hooves, and knelt in front of Di Shirtian and Chen Shi. From the previous words, how could he not understand that what was coming next must be a reward from the king? Although he had followed here since early in the morning and was loyal, he was still full of excitement to be rewarded. A reward was a kind of affirmation of his loyalty, a kind of honor. And Di Shirtian's shining eyes carefully sized up Chihua and nodded approvingly. In these 5 years, he had taken good care of the valley, and his cultivation had not fallen behind. He had reached the late stage of the demon beast. Logically speaking, reaching the late stage of the demon beast was already qualified to trigger the shape-shifting demon tribulation. However, after all, he had forcibly promoted to this realm with the spirit wine. He lacked the difficult understanding of demon beasts, so his foundation was not stable. In this state, he was simply courting death. It seemed that Chihua also understood his situation and did not trigger the demon tribulation at all. With this kind of self-awareness, he was a material that could be cultivated. Chihua, the development of the myriad demon valley today is because of your immeasurable contribution. Looking at your cultivation, you have reached the late stage of the demon beast, but after all, most of your demon chi was refined with spirit wine. Without time to settle, your understanding of demon chi is not enough, and it is also because of the cultivation method. This time, I have gained a lot of benefits in the heavenly demon secret realm, so I might as well give it to you. You can tell me what cultivation direction you want to choose in the future. This king will consider it as yours. Di Shirtian said in a deep voice. He had obtained the huge demon clan cultivation method left by heavenly demon Ziyue in the Linglong treasure pagoda. He did not intend to hold on to it tightly in his hands. He wanted to give his subordinates in the myriad demon valley the opportunity to choose a cultivation method. Chihua and the others had followed him for the longest time. With their loyalty, he would definitely not be stingy with the cultivation method. Even if he was strong, he was still a lone traveler. Only when he was strong, he could bring along those close to him to become strong as well. Only then would he be truly strong. As for how to integrate the myriad demon valley and gather the hearts of all the demon clans, the tens of thousands of ancient books of the demon clan in his hands could be said to be the most important and crucial thing. When Chihua heard that Di Shirtian was going to look for a special cultivation method for him, his eyes were filled with excitement and gratitude. His tower-like body trembled as he said in a trembling voice, "My king." After spitting out a single word, Chihua was unable to continue. Over the years, how could he not know how important cultivation methods were to the monster race? There were many monster race elites that only cultivated superficial cultivation methods. Although most of the cultivation methods that Di Shirtian obtained from the 100 Transformations Valley were orthodox cultivation methods, they were still incomparably precious treasures. Now, he was actually going to tailor a cultivation technique for him. How great was this gift? When Di Shirtian saw this, he was inwardly satisfied. Fair rewards and punishments were indeed the best way to gather people's hearts. However, his face was still full of dignity without the slightest change. He nodded and said, "As long as you're loyal to me, I am not a stingy person. What kind of cultivation method do you want? Feel free to tell me. However, you must remember to be careful. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Next time, if you want to choose a cultivation method, you'll need to make contributions." "Yes, my king." Chihua took a deep breath. Although he did not know what contributions were, he knew that this was a rare opportunity. It would be difficult for him to get a second chance. He quickly thought about what kind of cultivation method he should choose. When he thought about this, the cave was silent. Even the Black Ape King and the Red-Crowned Crane King looked at Chihua with some envy. The Niden was hard to condense, but cultivation methods were hard to find. After a while, Chihua raised his head and said respectfully, "My king, I'm looking for a cultivation method that is suitable for my demon body. It is more of the fire element, and it would be best if it could increase my strength." When he finished speaking, his expression was full of anticipation. Back then, in the pagoda, Di Tion had read tens of thousands of cultivation techniques and memorized them all in his mind. He had also extracted the essence of these cultivation techniques and combined them with the comprehension of the 7 emotions and 6 desires to create the Book of Huangji, shocking the world. He had memorized those cultivation techniques long ago. After hearing Qi Hua's request, a cultivation technique appeared in his mind. With a thought, a blank scroll appeared in his hand. This scroll was placed on the bookshelves in the pagoda. It was made of unique materials. It was a scroll used to record cultivation methods and important information in ancient times. In ancient times, it was called the Immortal Scroll. In ancient times, it was called the Immortal Heavenly Book. The names were different, but the materials were similar. If used to preserve it, it would not decay for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. The Immortal Scroll in his hand had no words on it. It was blank. After Di Tion took it out, he gently threw it forward. The scroll opened up in front of him like a painting, but it was blank inside. At the same time, the purple king mark between his eyebrows flashed. A divine sense shot out from the king mark and turned into countless mysterious ancient demon characters that imprinted themselves on the Immortal Scroll. Suddenly, countless mysterious demon characters appeared on the blank scroll. If it was a human cultivator, they would not be able to understand them. These were characters that belonged to the demon race. Each demon character had a mysterious power. In the blink of an eye, the scroll was filled with countless demon characters. After the imprinting, the scroll automatically rolled up again. On the back of the scroll, another line of demon characters appeared. It was the name of the scroll. It was called the Heaven Burning Strength Manual. After the scroll rolled up, it emitted an ancient aura. It was very obscure, as if an invisible hand was holding it and bringing it to Qi Hua. When Qi Hua saw it, his eyes flashed with excitement. He knelt on the ground and stretched out his front hooves to hold the Immortal Scroll in front of him. However, when he touched the scroll, he felt a sharp pain in his front hooves. A drop of blood fell on the scroll and instantly merged with it. The aura of the scroll became simple and plain. It was like an ordinary item. This scroll is called the Immortal Scroll. Recorded in it is the Heaven Burning Strength Manual. It is a mystic class high-grade cultivation method. It is an ancient demon cultivation method. As long as you study it diligently, it will not be difficult for you to cultivate to the ancient demon king realm. The Immortal Scroll is stained with your blood. Those who are not of your bloodline cannot open it. Di Tion said calmly. However, in the ears of Qi Hua and the others, it was like a stormy sea. Not only was it an ancient demon cultivation method, but it also had the chance to reach the ancient demon king realm. How precious was that? The Black Ape King and the Red-Crowned Crane King's expressions changed slightly. They looked at Qi Hua with deep envy. They had never had such a cultivation method. Thinking about it inwardly, in the past, they guarded a small place and called themselves kings and ancestors, but there was nothing that could be compared to this Immortal Scroll. They couldn't help but secretly exclaim at Sakura's wealth. But today, Di Tion seemed to have completely overturned their previous views. He patted the storage bag at his waist lightly, and a long, fiery red staff appeared in his hand. As soon as this iron staff appeared, the surrounding air became hot. It seemed to vibrate a few times as if it had a mind of its own. Then, with a move, it was about to fly out of the cave. However, as soon as it moved, it was bound to the spot by an invisible force. It landed in front of Qi Hua. Clang! With a soft sound, the iron staff stabbed straight into the ground and easily pierced into the hard mountain rock. This is a high-grade magic weapon that I obtained from fighting with immortal cultivators on the heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge in the Secret Realm. It is a weapon called the Sun-Piercing Staff. It is suitable for you. I will give it to you as a reward. Why don't you keep it in the demon residence and nurture it? Di Tion said softly. When Qi Hua heard this, he became even more respectful and excited. He kowtowed to Di Tion, opened his mouth, and inhaled. Immediately, the sun-piercing staff shrunk rapidly and was swallowed into his mouth. A reward, a cultivation method, and a weapon. He was not stingy. This action, without a doubt, made Chihua's loyalty even more unbreakable and difficult to shake. He bowed respectfully again and "Thank you, King, Mistress, for your kindness. Chihua will repay it with 10,000 deaths." It was obvious that he was treating Chen Shi as his mistress. When Di Shirtian heard this, he nodded to himself and let Chihua leave. The second one to come forward was Yuan Tian. He was also the second of the five. Yuan Tian respectfully knelt on the ground. Di Shirtian gave out rewards, just like Chihua. However, Yuan Tian's requirements for cultivation methods leaned towards the metal element, and the attacks were more powerful. Di Shirtian also gave an immortal scroll. On it was a scroll called the Heaven-Splitting Art of Metal Fusion. It was also a high-grade mystic level. It was not inferior to Chi Hua's heaven-burning art of great strength. Seeing Yuan Tian's monkey nature, he also gave him an iron staff. It shone with golden light and was called the Heaven-Shaking Staff. Its grade was the same as the Sun-Piercing Staff. Its power was not bad. If it was nurtured well and refined using the method of a natal magic weapon, it could be upgraded to a magic weapon in the future. Di Shirtian was not stingy with Chi Hua and the others. He also treated Bai Yu and the others equally. The third brother, Bai Yu, gave a scroll called the Wolf Howling Moon Technique. It happened to be a very famous cultivation method of the Wolf clan. It was collected by heavenly demon Ziwa. Moreover, it was not a single scroll. It was the first part of the Wolf Howling Moon Technique, an earth-level cultivation method. After it was finished, one could continue to cultivate this earth-level cultivation method. It was very rare. Di Shirtian also gave him a protective treasure. It was a pair of claws. When worn on the claws, it was very sharp. It was called the Sky-Splitting Claws. It was very compatible with Bai Yu. Ing Kong received a scroll called the Sky Eagle Soaring Art. When cultivated to a high level, it could stimulate the ancestral bloodline in one's body. He was given a pearl. This pearl seemed to be refined in the Yin wind. It could spew out extremely poisonous Yin wind. If it really hit the body, if one's cultivation was slightly weaker, it would directly blow away the spirit and the body would be blown away. It was very powerful. However, the Yin wind inside was not infinite. It could be used 100 times. If one wanted to use it again, one would need to find the eye of the Yin wind and absorb the Yin wind to replenish the energy used. With this flaw, it could be considered a pretty good treasure. Bai Susu received a scroll called the Divine Python Swallowing Sky Technique and a 1,000-blade spiritual snake whip. If cultivated to the highest level, one could transform into a sky-swallowing python, which was extremely powerful. In fact, there was another earth-level cultivation method called the 9 Transformation Dragon Technique that was very suitable for her. It could transform her bloodline into that of the Dragon Clan. It was very impressive. However, Di Shirtian did not give them the earth-level cultivation method. First of all, if he directly gave them such a heavy reward, it would be too easy for them to reach the sky in a single step. What they needed was to build a foundation. In this case, a mystic-level cultivation method was the most suitable. Moreover, he had long planned to not directly give them cultivation methods above the mystic level. They would obtain them by merit. It would give them the motivation to move forward and also make them more loyal to him and the Myriad Demon Valley. Brother, Xiaobai wants it too. At this time, Xiaobai, who had been lying comfortably in Chun Shi's arms, saw that Chi Hua and the other 5 had all received cultivation methods, weapons, and magic treasures that were compatible with her. Her 2 eyes blinked, revealing a trace of desire and determination, and she opened her mouth to cry out. She said firmly in her heart, Xiaobai can't watch brother work hard alone. I also have to work hard to cultivate and help brother save mother. Although Xiaobai had always been very innocent, she also had her own obsession in her heart. Over the years, she had also been working hard to cultivate. With the tiger roar technique that Di Shirtian gave her, coupled with her extraordinary talent as a white tiger, her cultivation speed was extremely fast. She was not slower than Chi Hua and the others at all, and she had also reached the late stage of the demonic beast realm. However, because of the myriad beast sect back then, Her body had not grown up and had always been so petite. Huh. Hearing Xiao Bai's words, Di Shirtian turned his head. The majesty on his face disappeared, and his eyes became gentle. He looked at Xiao Bai and said dotingly, "How could I forget you, Xiao Bai? Here, this is the cultivation method and magic treasure that I specially prepared for you." How could Di Shirtian forget Xiao Bai, the only blood relative by his side now? She was his biological sister in this life. When they were in the secret realm, he had already prepared for Xiao Bai. It was an immortal scroll which recorded the heaven-level cultivation method White Tiger Roar to the sky. According to the records, this cultivation method was the supreme cultivation method of the Tiger clan, created by the White Tiger Sacred Beast, one of the 4 sacred beasts in the ancient times. Its power was so strong that it was also famous in the ancient times. For someone like Xiao Bai, who had the White Tiger bloodline in her body, it was the most suitable cultivation method in the world. After cultivating, the White Tiger bloodline in her body would slowly awaken. Finally, a pair of wings would grow on her back, and she would truly return to the ancient times and become a sacred beast White Tiger. It was incomparably powerful. Thousand Beast sect, what you did to Xiao Bai, I will definitely make you pay back 100 times, no, 1,000 times. When he thought of Xiao Bai's body that seemed to never grow up, Di Shirtian's heart surged with a strong killing intent. He couldn't wait to kill the Thousand Beast sect immediately. He gave Xiao Bai the heaven-level cultivation method to cultivate because he wanted to try and see if this cultivation method could solve Xiao Bai's current situation. As for the magic treasure, it was very strange. It was a book made of jade. The light on the book flowed and emitted a strong pressure. The pressure was far stronger than all the magic treasures that appeared before. Faintly, demonic beasts like Chi Hua felt as if there was a huge mountain on their bodies. It was very sad. On the surface of the book, there were 4 ancient seal words. Myriad Heavenly Mirror. It was the natal magic treasure that he had snatched from a nascent soul stage cultivator in the mystic realm. It had been sealed by the mysterious power of the heaven-connecting yin-yang bridge and had not been damaged in the slightest before it was taken away. It was a rather good magic treasure, and its grade had already entered the ranks of middle-grade magic treasures. In the Heavenly Mirror, every page stored a type of spirit talisman. When one wanted to attack, one could directly drive the spirit talisman inside to attack, and it could also make the spirit talisman stronger. Di Shirtian even specially checked in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda and put all the spirit talismans he had into the Heavenly Mirror. Now, there were more than 300 yellow-grade spirit talismans and 9 black-grade spirit talismans in the Heavenly Mirror. This was a spirit talisman that could fight against a nascent soul cultivator. It was best to use it to protect Xiao Bai. As expected, when Xiao Bai received the scroll and the Heavenly Mirror, her eyes were filled with joy. She kept playing with the myriad Heavenly Mirror and was very happy. Today, Sakura was like a boy giving out treasures. He casually took out all kinds of treasures that were pretty good. He wasn't stingy in taking them out and casually gave them out. Chi Hua and the others saw this and became even more respectful. If he was so generous with his rewards, then when he really did something wrong, he would definitely not be considerate when he punished. For a time, Di Shirtian's image of a fair reward and punishment was immediately erected in their hearts. After Di Shirtian finished giving out rewards, he casually glanced around the cave and saw all the expressions in everyone's eyes. He also saw the envious expressions of the Black Ape King and the Red Crown Crane King. He did not say much, nor did he give out any cultivation methods or magic treasures on the spot. He just smiled deeply in his heart. His expression became serious, and the purple king mark on his forehead flickered. That aura that was above all beings appeared again, and it also made Chi Hua and the others in the cave feel a chill in their hearts at the same time. They temporarily suppressed the joy of receiving rewards, knowing that the next thing to be said must be quite important. Every time he saw this expression, the king would decide a major event that would affect the entire Myriad Demon Valley. Sure enough, Di Shirtian said in a deep voice, Now there are tens of thousands of my people in the valley, but they're still like a sheet of loose sand and can be easily killed by foreign enemies. When I came to the myriad demon valley, I swore that I would gather a force that could make the cultivators of the human clan tremble in fear. The reason why the cultivators of the human clan could gather such a powerful force in such a short time is because they have a side that we demon clan do not have. They have a strong cohesion. When gathered together, they can erupt with amazing power. With a unified command, they would be able to unleash unimaginable combat power. Since ancient times, our demon clan has become a sheet of loose sand. Most of us have a place to ourselves, but in the end, we were besieged and killed by cultivators. He took a deep breath, and his eyes were shining brightly. With his words, even the air in the entire cave began to become heavy. Chun-Shi, who was beside him, also lowered his head and silently pondered. In his heart, he couldn't help but feel waves of shock, because what Tian said was indeed the biggest problem of the demon clan today. It was also the most powerful reliance of the cultivators to annihilate the demon clan. If there were 10,000 demon clans in a mountain range, and these demon clans were distributed in various locations of the mountain range, it was naturally quite easy to break through one by one. However, if 10,000 demon clans were gathered in one place and condensed into a group, which sect would dare to make a move easily? If they made a move, they would have to be prepared to suffer heavy losses. The integration of the myriad demon valley is about to begin, and the rise is right in front of us. Brothers, if you have tickets, please help me. After National Day, 2 chapters will be updated every day, and the number of chapters will be increased appropriately. For example, each chapter will have 4,000 words. Every day, there will be 7,000 or 8,000 words. During this time, I have been adjusting and trying to increase the number of chapters. To be continued, if you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 343. If they could band together and form a force that could not be underestimated, then the sects in the cultivation world on the purple gold mainland would not dare to easily start a monstrous massacre. How would they dare to say to the demon clan that they would encircle and annihilate the evildoers? In fact, Tian also understood that the current situation of the demon clan was actually caused by the demon clan itself. Almost most of the demon clan had a special attachment to their birthplace and nest. Often, unless it was absolutely necessary, they would not be willing to move at all. Instead, they would always guard the place where they were raised and turn the place that they could influence into their own territory. In this area, they had always been the overlords. Usually, in a 10,000-mile-long mountain range, there would be a member of the demon clan at regular intervals. However, the members of the demon clan at the border would not allow others to step into their territory easily. If they had friends, they would only have 1 or 2. The more powerful ones would gather a few big cats and start to call themselves kings. It was very scattered, and there was no decent gathering place. Firstly, it was their nature. Secondly, on the purple gold mainland today, there was no one who could gather all the demon clansmen in the world and seek refuge from them. Some people said that there were still 8 great demon kings on the mainland. Yes, each of the 8 great demon kings was extremely powerful, but they did not have the kind of prestige that unified the entire demon clan. They did not have the kind of great courage that could compete with the cultivation world. In the face of the current situation of the demon clan, they only saw a decline to the extent that they did not have the ability to clean it up. In the end, they could only gather a part of the demon clansmen on their respective mountains to protect one side or wander around leisurely. Since others don't want to do it, then let me raise this flag. Many thoughts whizzed through Tian's mind. His eyes revealed a kind of sharpness, a kind of majesty, and a kind of sharpness. His eyes swept over all the demon clansmen in the cave residence and said with a sonorous voice, "A plate of loose sand will only be easily broken through one by one. My myriad demon valley cannot repeat the mistakes of the past. We must regroup and have different functions and truly form a whole. At that time, anyone who wants to scheme against my myriad demon valley will have to pay a heavy price. In his words, he vaguely pointed out all the benefits that had been integrated, allowing others to freely imagine. Chi Hua and the other four had always been loyal to him. When they heard this, their blood had already started to boil. They looked at each other, stepped forward at the same time, and shouted excitedly, "King, please give the order. We will always be the sharpest battle knives in your hands." Their eyes were filled with reverence as they looked at their king. He was filled with excitement. Even the Black Ape King and the Red-Crowned Crane King couldn't help but fall into an inexplicable yearning from Di Shirtian's words. It was as if they had truly witnessed the scene of thousands of demons following a single call, howling through the heavens and earth, and even the world of cultivators had to avoid them. They didn't hide their yearning at all. He actually has such lofty ambitions. Really, can it be done? Chun-Shi listened, and her heart was also filled with waves of undercurrents. For Di Shirtian, when he first entered the southern wilderness, she vaguely felt that he was a little different. She didn't expect that this difference would be so big. How could she not understand that Di Shirtian wanted to erect a different flag in the declining demon clan? She was afraid that the integration would not only be limited to the myriad demon valley. The valley was only the first step. In the future, perhaps the entire demon clan would undergo earth-shaking changes because of his will. Chihua, come forward to receive the title. Di Shirtian didn't care what others thought. He had planned for many years, and the implementation could no longer be changed. Everything had to be done. His face was dignified without being angry, and his expression was solemn. Chihua is here. Chihua, you have already had experience in managing the affairs of the valley. Today, I appoint you as a 9th-grade demon general, and you will command 3,000 demons. The army will be called the Raging Flame Flag. You will be in charge of the 9th-grade Myriad Demon Command. You will be in charge of training the Demon Army. Anyone who becomes part of the Myriad Demon Valley's Demon Army will be able to cultivate the superior grade yellow rank cultivation method, 7-kill battle method, and the 5 elements demon art, Raging Flame technique. As Di Shirtian spoke, a light flashed in his hand, and a scarlet square-shaped token and 2 immortal scrolls appeared. The token was like a flame jumping. There were mysterious lines on it. It was very simple and looked quite mysterious. There seemed to be a mysterious aura in the token, full of a strong majesty. The front of the token had the word Myriad Demon, but the back was a black tiger proudly raising its head and roaring at the sky. It was lifelike, and the purple king pattern on the black tiger's forehead was clearly visible. Chihua accepts the order. Chihua's eyes flashed with a trace of excitement. He respectfully received the token and the 2 immortal scrolls. When he touched the token, there was a trace of pain. A drop of demon blood dripped on it, and the token immediately turned into a scarlet light that rushed into his foreleg. When he looked again, there was a token imprint on his foreleg. It had already merged with him. This was the 9th-grade Myriad Demon token. It was not big, only an inch big. It represented his identity. If there was a 9th grade, there would naturally be a 1st grade. There were 9 grades, and for every grade, the Myriad Demon token would be a little bigger. To show distinction, this token was refined by Sakura in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. It was refined by fusing several incomparably hard and indestructible materials together. Not only was it an identity, but it was also a treasure. Inside, there was a trace of Emperor's true power that he personally fused into it. Therefore, under the influence of this trace of true power, the token was filled with an invisible pressure. After you leave, you can choose 3,000 demons in the valley to be under the Raging Flame Army. Teach the 2 scrolls to the 3,000 soldiers to practice battle formations. You can receive 100 merit points every month. Your soldiers can receive 10 merit points every month. Di Shirtian said in a low voice. Yes, King. Chihua responded and retreated. After receiving the Myriad Demon token, There was an invisible pressure on his body. It was the prestige that the token gave him. Yuan Tian, come forward to receive the title. Your subordinate is here. Next, Sakura called Yuan Tian out and carefully sized him up a few times. He had a full body of golden monkey hair, and his 2 eyes were incomparably lively. However, his 2 hands couldn't stop scratching his head from beginning to end. Looking at his appearance, he was really like a monkey. His nature couldn't be changed no matter what. Yuan Tian, your winemaking skills are the best in the valley. Today, you are conferred the title of 9th grade wine master. You will specialize in winemaking and set up a winery. You will be in charge and can lead your monkey tribe to brew wine. You will be bestowed with the wine refinement art. This art will allow you to refine the wine and increase your demonic chi. It is most suitable for you. Spirit wine is related to the development of the myriad demon valley. It is extremely important. You can receive 150 merit points every month. Your demonic soldiers can receive 15 merit points. Di Tian rewarded him again. Yuan Tian was overjoyed when he heard this. He took the reward and retreated. Then, it was Baiyue's turn. Baiyue, you have followed me for the longest time. I know your nature. I want to unify the Myriad Demon Valley and set a law. The law is called the Myriad Demon Codex. You will be in charge of supervising the demons in the valley. If there is anyone who violates the law, you will have the right to punish. You will be conferred the title of 9th grade Enforcer Demon General. You will be given the Heaven Punishing Seal and Heaven Sealing Seal. These 2 arts are extremely powerful and cannot be abused. Do you know? You can receive 200 merit points every month. Sakura wasn't angry, but he was imposing as he looked at the silver-white wolf standing in front of him. On his body, there was a thick sense of aloofness. The nature of a wolf was undoubtedly revealed on his body. If one were to say who followed Sakura the earliest, it would undoubtedly be Baiyu. He had always been following behind him. His nature was aloofness, but he was the most suitable one to implement the Myriad Demon Codex. As for the Myriad Demon Codex, naturally, it was a law specially formulated by Di Tian. It was the highest method to manage and consolidate the Myriad Demon Valley. Among them, there was no need to mention the rules that did not allow personal grudges to fight in the Myriad Demon Valley. The most important part of the Codex was the rule regarding merit points. Di Tian had been thinking about how to plan the Myriad Demon Valley in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. First of all, he definitely could not make the Myriad Demon Valley into a state of disunity. He had to unite all the demons in the valley. The button to unite them was, first of all, prestige. He had to have a powerhouse, which he was unwilling to pass on. Secondly, he had to set up rules for the demons in the valley so that they would have a sense of unity and truly feel that they belonged to the Myriad Demon Valley. They had to be proud to be a member of the Myriad Demon Valley. They had to do their best to help the Myriad Demon Valley develop. There must be a complete constitution. It was impossible to rely on prestige and strong pressure for a long time. In the human world, what was the most indispensable thing? It was none other than money and currency. Without currency, how could all kinds of goods circulate? How could they exchange what they needed? It could be seen that currency in the secular world was the most indispensable thing. It was a bridge that connected the relationship between people. It was like 2 rivers that were originally not connected. The water in the river would never move, and money was a channel that connected the 2 rivers. A pool of stagnant water would thus become a pool of flowing water. The great role of currency could be imagined. This was the same in the world of immortal cultivation. It was just that the currency in the secular world was gold, silver, and copper, but in the world of immortal cultivation, all kinds of spirit stones were used as the currency to buy and sell goods. Therefore, in order to flourish in the world of immortal cultivation, anything needed could be bought with spirit stones. However, the demons did not. Spirit stones were useful to the demons, but they were not indispensable. Most of the demons lived deep in the mountains. How could some things be measured by spirit stones? Di Tian thought about it and felt that it was absolutely immeasurable to determine a thing that could be used as the currency of the demons that could be circulated among each other. Therefore, he came up with the idea of merit points, or merit points. The code stipulated that merit points were converted from contributions to the Myriad Demon Valley. For example, if you helped the Myriad Demon Valley to do something important, and it was true, you could go to the place that Tion was about to open to exchange merit points. Also, if you contributed a certain material according to the value of the material, you could get a number of merit points, and so on, or complete a task. Naturally, with merit points, if there was no place for them to spend, it would still be a pool of stagnant water. Therefore, Tion decided to take out all the cultivation methods, magic weapons, and magic weapons collected in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, and refine a treasure pavilion to put the cultivation methods and magic weapons in. If one wanted to obtain these cultivation methods and magic weapons, they would need to be exchanged with merit points, in exchange for a chance to enter the treasure pavilion. Choose treasures. Just think about it. In the current demon race, there was a lack of cultivation techniques. Many demon race members didn't even have a decent cultivation technique. If Sakura used these incomparably precious cultivation techniques and treasures as exchange items, the value of merit points would naturally increase greatly. At that time, who knows how many demon race members would go crazy for them? Everyone would rush over like a flock of bees. Merit points would also be circulated because of this. Controlling merit points would naturally create a kind of cohesion. At this time, naturally, no one could guess Shuriken's thoughts. Baiyu accepts the order. Baiyu's eyes revealed a look of determination and persistence as he carefully received these items. Shuriken nodded in satisfaction. Baiyu's eyes told him that he would definitely not let him down. Moreover, with his personality, he was indeed the most suitable one for this position. Next, he was made a general. Kong was also conferred the title of 9th rank Demon General, leading 3,000 flying demons to patrol the void. The merit points he received every month were also 100 points. Shuriken let Bai Susu be in charge of the herb garden and plant various spiritual herbs. This position was equally important. After all, the demons in the Myriad Demon Valley could not do without various spiritual herbs to improve their cultivation. Moreover, she had a calm personality and was very suitable for planting spiritual herbs. She happily agreed. Shuriken had also given her an ancient book on spirit herbs, medicinal classics. Not only were there illustrations of various spirit herbs, there was also a cultivation method that was related to spirit herbs. It was able to borrow the medicinal power of spirit herbs, and after refining it, it could be used to raise one's demon chi. She also received 150 merit points every month. It was quite generous. In a short period of time, the rewards were given out again and again. It sounded like a short period of time, but during this time, the entire Myriad Demon Valley had been carefully divided into roles. Everyone had their own things to do. The division of labor was clear. There was no more confusion. With this division, there would be laws to follow in the future. After the rewards, Shuriken waved his hand and let them leave. He gave Chi Hua and the others some time to carefully absorb what had just happened. Shuriken and Chun, she also left the cave residence together and walked in the valley, not to mention the changes that were happening in the Myriad Demon Valley after Shuriken returned. Back on the Misty Wave Island, the demons heard that the immortal cultivation world had taken advantage of the fact that most of the elites of the demon race had gone to the heavenly demon mystic realm to encircle and annihilate most of the demon race on the purple gold continent. Demon blood dyed the earth red. This news immediately enraged the group of demons. They roared and charged out. There were almost 10,000 demons, all of whom were elites who had walked out of the endless slaughter at the Tongtianyang Bridge. Almost all of them were strong demons. There were also 30 to 40 demon kings who had condensed their inner cores. In addition, there were also Silver Hair, Blood Dragon King, and by Xian, 3 ancient demon kings who followed them because they were worried. Along the way, they broke through the air from the Yambal Lake. The demonic aura surged and directly turned into monstrous demonic flames that swept through the entire void. Wherever they passed, the pitch-black demonic aura rolled over. It was so dense that even a trace of light could not penetrate it. If one looked carefully, they would find that the eyes of the tens of thousands of demons in this black cloud were red. Anger was burning fiercely. There was only one thought in their minds at this moment: revenge, revenge. It could be foreseen that even if there was a mountain in front of them, it would be overthrown by the angry demons on the spot. Along the way, the group of demons charged forward in a straight line towards the nearest immortal cultivation sect. Behind them, there were 3 young girls dressed in gorgeous clothes. They were standing on a snow-white cloud, following closely behind the group of demons. They were neither close nor distant, and just happened to be in their line of sight. These 3 young girls were the 3 princesses of the Yamba Dragon Palace. Ao Shui blinked her pure eyes and looked at the angry demons in front of her. She asked in a childish voice, "Big sister, are these demons really going to fight with the cultivators? Why do they have to fight and kill?" Shui doesn't like it at all. When it came to fighting, there was an obvious look of disgust on her pink little face. "Little sister." Ao Qing lovingly stroked Ao Shui's little head that only reached her chest. She shook her head and said, "Some things can't be changed because of our likes and dislikes." This time, the immortal cultivation world attacked the demons behind their backs. It's really too despicable. After 5 years of encirclement, who knows how many demons who had just been born with spirituality were killed. The human race wants to exterminate the demon race. This hatred of extermination cannot be peacefully coexisted. It can only be vented with blood. There was no way to avoid this battle. Unfortunately, in this way, who knows how many of the elites of the demon race will be killed. She was lamenting. As the first princess, she knew many things. The dragon race had been very close to the demon race since ancient times. She was clear about this. Seeing that the demon race had fallen to the point where it was about to be exterminated, she couldn't help but feel sad. "Big sister, when the fight starts later, should we help?" The second princess, Ao Hong, was wearing a fiery red dress. There was a faint joy on her delicate face. In fact, it was as if she was looking forward to the upcoming bloody battle. A few dice suddenly appeared in Ao Qing's hand. She threw them up and down. A mysterious smile flashed across her face. She said decisively, "Help. Since we're here, we have to help no matter what. However, we can't reveal our identity as the dragon race. Otherwise, there will be trouble." "Hee, that's great. Big sister, let's try the call the wind and summon the rain that we just learned." Wherever the group of Yao beasts passed, Yao Qi billowed and filled the entire sky, blocking out all the sunlight, causing the ground below to turn pitch black. Their momentum could be said to be incomparably vast. They did not cover up at all and could be clearly seen from afar. In front of the demons, there was a medium-sized mountain range. It stretched for more than 10,000 miles. The tallest mountain was called the Heavenly Luck Bee. "Sorry, I got drunk with my friends. I had written it long ago. I didn't expect to fall asleep on my bed when I came back. I only posted it now. Damn, I'll update it tomorrow. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading." Chapter 344. Tianyan Peak was the tallest, piercing straight into the clouds. It was the main peak. Around the main peak, there were 6 other peaks. Each peak had a different atmosphere and a different aura. They stood tall and resonated with the main peak. Looking at their positions, they seemed to be in natural formation. An obscure charm was constantly flowing. On each of these 7 peaks, there were courtyards and palaces. Especially on the main peak, there was a majestic hall that stood tall. Sitting on it, there was an aura of ascending to the heavens. On each peak, there were a large number of disciples wearing the same clothes or breathing in the purple chi that was released when the sun rose. They were absorbing the purple chi that was released in the morning. The purple chi that was released every morning was the intersection of yin and yang in the world, the alternation of the sun and moon. It formed the purest and most mysterious power, The purple chi contained fortune. After absorbing and refining the purple chi, it was irreplaceable for expanding and stabilizing one's purple palace and purifying one's true yuan. Therefore, immortal cultivators treated absorbing the Eastern Pole purple chi as the most important thing in the day. Perhaps 1 or 2 days would not make a difference, but if one persisted, the benefits were obvious. It was understood that those who could form the immortal soul and ascend to the immortal realm were mostly those who persisted in absorbing the Eastern Pole purple chi day after day. Therefore, in the immortal cultivation world, every morning they would face the east and absorb the purple chi. Of course, this was not absolute. There were also those who practiced spells or sword techniques. Every peak had a large field. The field was filled with immortal cultivators. Most of them were following behind some imparting disciples, learning the basic sword techniques and formations of the sect. It was obvious that the sect in this mountain range was quite prosperous. The disciples on the 7 peaks added up to no less than 10,000 people. This did not include the people at the foot of the mountain. There was an endless stream of people in the markets of various sizes. There were all kinds of spiritual herbs and spiritual items planted around the courtyards. It was very prosperous. A sect could not be established just because one wanted to. It could survive just because one wanted to. There were many things that one had to pay attention to. For example, the immortal cultivators' food and drink. There is a saying, immortals and mortals are different. Once you enter the immortal sect, you will no longer eat the food of mortals. This didn't mean that cultivators didn't need to eat and drink. It was just that the 5 grains of the mortal world contained too many impurities and too much turbid chi. During the chi refining stage, they could still eat them. However, once they broke through the chi refining stage and reached the foundation building stage, the spiritual root in their body would be completely stimulated and their bodies would be tempered. They would be able to get rid of the accumulated impurities and filth in their bodies, allowing them to be closer to the heaven and earth and be able to sense the various kinds of spiritual chi between heaven and earth. At this point, one could abstain from eating and drinking for 10 days to half a month without dying. At this time, if he were to eat grains, the impurities in the grains would remain in his body, which would harm his body and hinder his ability to sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At that time, they would have to specially spend time to refine it, which was not worth it. Therefore, cultivators rarely ate food from the secular world. Of course, it wasn't that they didn't eat. It was just that they didn't eat the 5 grains, but the spiritual grains. Spirit grains were carefully selected from the various grains in the mortal world that contained spirit chi. They were then placed on specially open spirit lands to be planted. These spirit seeds did not absorb the fertile nutrients of the land, but instead directly absorbed spirit chi from the spirit lands to support their own growth. Therefore, what grew were no longer the 5 grains, but the spiritual grains, which were filled with spiritual chi. Although there wasn't much of it, when eaten, not only was it more delicious than the 5 grains in the secular world, but could also slightly increase one's spiritual chi and cleanse the body. No matter which sect it was, if one wanted to establish a sect, they must first have a spiritual land and plant spiritual grains. For these spiritual grains, the growers were called spiritual plant masters. Generally, very few inner sect disciples would do it. Most of them were planted by outer sect disciples or some rogue cultivators under the sect. Therefore, under each mountain, there was a large spiritual land that was cultivated and planted with various spiritual plants. The sect in this mountain range was called the Pure Yang sect. It specialized in formations and sword cultivation, and was considered an above-average sect in the cultivation world. In the surrounding hundreds of thousands of miles, it was the largest. The mountain range was called the Big Dipper Mountain Range. Whoosh! The originally calm sky above the mountain range was broken by a flame-like sword light. This sword light didn't stop above the Big Dipper Mountain Range. It was like lightning that didn't stop for a moment, rushing straight to the main peak of the 7 mountains, Tianyan Peak. When the sword light reached the edge of the 7 mountains, a restriction appeared, but was immediately pacified by a spiritual talisman. Then the sword light flew into the main peak. A moment later, dong, dong. 9 consecutive bell tolls resounded through the entire Big Dipper mountain range. Almost everyone could hear the aura of imminent danger from the sound of the bell. Listen, this is the sect's Haotian bell. When the bell tolls, something big must have happened. And this is bad. It's 9 bell tolls. Everyone, quickly return to the sect. In an instant, everyone in the Big Dipper mountain range, regardless of whether they were in the market or in seclusion, their expressions changed when they heard the 9 consecutive rings of the bell. No matter what they were doing, they immediately put down whatever they were doing and turned around to rush towards Tianyin Peak with their fastest speed. In the Pure Yang sect, the Haotian bell wasn't usually rung, but when it did, it meant that something big had happened. If it only rang 3 times, then it was only to summon people with important positions in the sect, so it wouldn't be too big of a deal. If it rang 6 times, then anyone who could spare time would have to rush over. But if it rang 9 times in a row, then it was a matter of life and death for the entire sect. Anyone, as long as they were a disciple of the Pure Yang sect, had to put down what they were doing and rush to the main peak immediately. Otherwise, they would be dealt with as traitors. Many people were a little surprised when they heard the bell tolls, but they immediately went crazy and rushed to the main peak on their swords. For a time, the sky above the mountain range was filled with swords of different colors that rose from all directions like a rain of arrows, forcibly blocking the entire sky. They came and went like shooting stars. It had the momentum of 10,000 swords returning to the sect. In the Pure Yang Hall on Tianyin Peak, a middle-aged man with a resolute face and 2 ancient swords on his back had an unusually sharp gaze. He looked at people as if they were 2 sharp swords. He sat in the main hall with 5 cultivators on each side. Among them, 3 were women and 7 were men. They all looked middle-aged, but without exception, they all had ancient swords on their backs. They were the standard attire of sword cultivators. At this moment, their expressions were all dignified. This kind of dignified expression made the air in the main hall seem quite oppressive, making it difficult for people to even breathe. Sectmaster, what should we do now? The news has been confirmed. A large number of demons are attacking our Pure Yang sect. It seems that they will reach the sect in a short while. These demons were all elites from Misty Wave Island. The weakest of them were demonic beasts, not to mention the demon king who had condensed his inner core. There were even a few of the 8 great demon kings among them. It seems that they already know what the cultivation world has done to the demons in the past few years. This is revenge. In the main hall, the law enforcement elder, Xiao Yin, took a deep breath. His expression was unusually heavy. That's right. There are more than 10,000 demons, and they are all elites among the demons. They're the best of the best who survived in the heavenly demon secret realm. Every one of them is comparable to our core formation cultivators, not to mention the demon kings who have condensed their inner cores. There are also the even more terrifying 8 great demon kings. With our strength, I'm afraid we won't be able to stop them. There are only 1,000 core formation cultivators in the sect, and the rest are mostly chi refinement and foundation establishment cultivators. After all, our Pure Yang sect foundation is not as deep as the other great sects. Another elder, surnamed Duan, said with a gloomy expression. In fact, everyone in the main hall knew very well. The Pure Yang sect had only been established for 3,000 years, and their foundation was far inferior to the other great sects. Now that the demons were coming in anger, they were standing in front of the demons. It could be said that they were bearing the brunt of the demons' attack. Sect Master Zhang Guo lowered his eyes and listened to the arguments in the main hall. After a long while, he opened his eyes and suddenly stood up. His face flashed with determination, and he said, "There's no need to argue anymore. Our Pure Yang sect is facing a great calamity this time. Karma is a cycle, and retribution is not pleasant. Today, I have learned a lesson. In the evening, we encircled the demons, and now they are coming to kill us. Resentment is useless. Third junior sister, Immediately go out and take the sect's elites with you. Leave behind a seed for the future of the Pure Yang sect. As for the other junior brothers and sisters, follow me and activate the sect's protective formation to resist the calamity." In a few words, he decided everything on the spot, and in the blink of an eye, he assigned all kinds of tasks. First, he saved a portion of the sect's elites for a comeback. Then, he made the decision to stay behind and resist the enraged demon army. This was the final sacrifice for the retreat of the other elites. Boom, boom, boom. The speed of the demons was extremely fast. The Pure Yang sect also knew the situation they were about to face. First, the Pure Yang sect's third elder, Fairy Tianfeng, led the sect's 3,000 disciples with the most potential and a portion of the sect's treasures, and quickly left in the opposite direction without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared. At the same time, the 7 mountains suddenly burst out with rays of intense light. Countless sword chi gushed out crazily, and countless restrictions appeared. In this movement, the aura of the 7 mountains instantly connected perfectly. There seemed to be countless mysterious connections between them. In an instant, the earth shook and the mountains shook. From the peak of the mountain, 7 rays of sword light directly shot into the sky. They rushed into the clouds, cut through the clouds, and went straight into the void. In an instant, it was still early in the morning. Bright and beautiful rays of sunlight spilled down and shone on the earth. However, when the 7 mysterious rays of sword light rushed into the sky above the Big Dipper mountain range, the void suddenly turned pitch black. A boundless starry sky appeared, and in the sky, there were only 7 stars. They emitted brilliant starlight and arranged themselves like a spoon. It was the Big Dipper. As soon as the 7 stars appeared, 7 rays of starlight instantly fell from the stars and landed on the 7 mountains with a loud bang. In an instant, the 7 mountain peaks rumbled unceasingly. Their entire bodies were covered in starlight, and in an instant, they were resplendent and magical. This starlight condensed and did not disperse. It mysteriously turned the covered mountain peaks into starry battle swords that pierced the clouds. The starry swords rumbled together, and a boundless might shrouded the entire Big Dipper mountain range. The swords instantly rose from the ground and hovered in the void, as if they were about to unleash a thunderous strike at any time. This was the Pure Yang sect's number 1 formation, the Big Dipper sword formation. It was using all of the sect's disciples. The more people used this formation, the stronger it became, and the more violent the starry sword chi that erupted. Kill, kill, kill. Despicable and shameless cultivators, today you'll pay for it with your own blood. You encircled and annihilated us monsters. Today, even if I don't give up my life, I'll make you pay the price for it. Black clouds rolled in the sky as if a demon god had descended, covering the entire horizon in an instant. Furious roars filled with endless hatred resounded through the sky. Monstrous flames of fury burned fiercely. The monsters howled with rage as they arrived at the Big Dipper mountain range. When they saw the 7 incomparably huge starry swords in the mountain range, they could clearly feel the sharp sword chi emanating from them. If it were any other time, perhaps they would have temporarily avoided them. But now they were burning with rage, and their minds were filled with boundless hatred. Not to mention the swords, even if there was a towering pillar in front of them, they wouldn't hesitate to step forward and topple it. However, the monsters weren't brainless. When they saw the incomparably huge starry swords, they instinctively felt a strong threat from them. None of them rashly charged over, but they stopped at the edge of the Big Dipper mountain range. TSK, what a big scene. Look at this sword formation. It's not simple at all. Among the monsters, Silverhair and the other 2 had different identities. Although they followed, they didn't act as the leaders. They just stood in the middle together to embolden themselves. The Blood WYRM King sneered as he looked at the incomparably huge sword formation in front of him. The aura coming from the sword formation even made him feel a strong threat. The sword forms the Big Dipper, and the 7 stars of the Big Dipper revolve. This should be the extremely famous Big Dipper sword formation in the cultivation world. It's quite powerful. If you're covered by the sword formation, not only will it be difficult to find a way out, but the sword chi inside will also be rampant. It revolves according to the 7 stars and draws on the power of the stars. With the help of the power of the stars, this sword formation's power can be used to kill a cultivator who has passed the tribulation. I didn't expect to encounter an obstacle as soon as I went out. It's a little difficult to break this formation. Silver Hair was the most experienced, and no one could compare to him in terms of experience. His eyes flickered as he spoke calmly. It's not difficult to break it. At this moment, the misty cloud demon king, Byzian, who had been holding the jade bamboo all this time, sketched restrictions on it with one hand and imprinted them on the jade bamboo. She glanced at the sword formation and then looked up into the void. The starlight fell from the sky and connected with the sword formation, supporting the operation of the sword formation. After he finished reading, he said indifferently, "Don't worry." Clap, clap. The Blood WRM King's eyes lit up, and he said with an evil smile, "That's right. How could I almost forget your best move, Misty Cloud? As long as you summon clouds and mist to block the stars and isolate the power of the sword formation, this formation can be easily broken." Byzian was a monster born from the clouds and mist. She was born with magical powers and could summon large clouds and mist. Now it seemed that it was the best way to deal with the Big Dipper sword formation. However, Byzian shook her head indifferently and said, "I can summon clouds and mist, but I can't block all the light of the stars. If I want to break the formation, I need the 3 princesses behind me." Silver Hair's eyes flashed, and he looked back thoughtfully. Ao Ching and the rest were not far away, and he said in a deep voice, "You're talking about the dragon race's most famous magical power. Call the wind and summon the rain." Hee hee. Interesting, very interesting. Call the wind and summon the rain is the dragon race's most basic magical power. Not only can it summon clouds and rain, but it can also be used to kill. Its power is astonishing, and it's a rare great magical power. The Blood WIRM King glanced at Ao Ching and the other 2 girls evilly and said with a strange smile, "I wonder if I can steal one of them to be my wife and learn this magical power." Humph, old WIRM, our demon race is now in a precarious situation. Don't think too much. Call the wind and summon the rain is an innate magical power passed down in the dragon race's bloodline. Even if you learn it, you won't be able to have the great power that the dragon race uses. Silver Hair looked at the Blood WIRM King indifferently. After saying that, he turned around and walked toward Ao Ching and the rest. Call the wind and summon the rain was not just an ordinary rain-making technique. Its power was a very powerful magical power in the world, and it was the foundation of all magical powers of the dragon race. If it was just an ordinary rain, it would be fine. But if it was really unleashed, that kind of power was simply like the apocalypse. No one knew how Silver Hair told Ao Ching and the rest. After a while, he turned around. Then, in the sky above the mountain range, there was a sudden clap of thunder, and a pitch-black darkness appeared out of thin air. The pitch-black gale let out shrill howls, and the wind carried mysterious black wind blades. Wherever the black wind went, a large number of flowers and trees on the ground seemed to have sped up countless times. They instantly turned yellow, and the black wind took away all the vitality. When the wind blew on the sword formation, the starlight around the sword formation was extremely dim. Raindrops fell with the wind and landed on the ground, forming ice crystals. The astonishing cold air seemed to be able to freeze everything. When it landed on the starlight was also melted. Thick black clouds covered the entire starry sky, isolating the power of the stars. Call the wind and summon the rain is indeed a magical power of the dragon race. However, it seems that Ao Ching and the rest haven't cultivated it to a high level. Silver Hair sighed after reading it. With the help of Call the Wind and Summon the Rain, the demons immediately used their magical powers to break the sword formation. The bloody slaughter filled the entire air with the color of blood. A day later, the Pure Yang sect was destroyed. The anger of the demons was obviously not something that could be quelled by the Pure Yang sect. They did not slow down at all and continued to sweep toward the next sect. The impact of the demons' revenge could be said to be earth-shattering. For half a month, it was almost unstoppable. Along the way, the various immortal sects were destroyed. No less than 5 medium-sized immortal sects were destroyed. This anger burned the life of the immortal cultivators. The large sects that did not take the demons seriously were also stunned by the madness of the demons. It was hard to imagine that the current demons would make such an obvious declaration of war against the immortal cultivation world and destroy almost hundreds of large and small sections. The immortal cultivation world, which had never been challenged, fell into a daze and could not change the situation in front of them for a while. The first chapter is 5,000 words. I said yesterday that I will update with 10,000 words. I will never go back on my words. There is an update tonight. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 345. The battle between immortals and demons, the human clan, had always been the main character of the world and the leader of the human clan in the cultivation world. For a long time, most of the cultivators thought that they were superior to others, and that no other clan could compare with them. For the demon clan, the overlords of the ancient times, they kept calling them evildoers and evil creatures. They did not really put any other clan on an equal footing with them at all. With a large number of cultivators in the cultivation world, many powerful foreign species were besieged and killed one after another. For countless years, nothing could threaten them. The demon clan, the overlords of the ancient times? In their eyes, the demon clan was just a precious refining material that could be used to increase the experience of their younger disciples. Regarding the encirclement and annihilation of the demon clan, many people took it as a matter of course. It was as if the demon clan was like a domestic animal that had been fattened up, and it was time to slaughter them. All along, the encirclement and annihilation had not gone wrong. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was an irresistible force. They had thought of everything, but they had never thought that the demon clan would dare to kill so blatantly. Wherever they went, they destroyed all the sects they encountered. They were unstoppable. This scene was like a clap of thunder on a sunny day, shocking those cultivators who were still dreaming of being superior to the rest of the cultivators. They were at a loss of what to do. The bloody fact that the demon clan had been destroyed was right in front of them. Only then did they realize that the demon clan was so powerful. The demon clan was not at their mercy. When they were angry, their anger could spread thousands of miles away. Many cultivators who had been going smoothly were even more at a loss. The fact that the demon clan had been destroyed was undoubtedly a heavy slap to the cultivators' faces. However, although the cultivation world was surprised, their reaction was not slow. The sect closest to the demon clan was a big sect called the Five Elements sect. Do you remember the young man who planted the curse mark on Di Shirtion on the heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge and the nascent soul realm cultivator Tianyu? They were from the Five Elements sect, and the young man's identity was even more impressive. The Five Elements sect was, after all, a great sect that stood at the pinnacle of the immortal cultivation world. The Pure Yang sect could not compare to the Five Elements reversal formation. The Five Elements reversal formation had stopped the demons in their tracks. Many of the body integration cultivators who had been in seclusion emerged from their seclusion and blocked the demonic beasts in front of the Five Elemental mountain range. At that time, the Five Elements sect wanted to defeat the group of demons in one strike. They had sent 3 body integration stage cultivators to launch a powerful attack, but Silver Hair, Blood WRM King, and the other 2 demon monarchs met them head-on and killed the 3 cultivators. The strength of the 3 demon kings was completely revealed, which made the crowd of demons very excited. Along the way, the crowd of demons spread out. Many of the remaining demons who were scattered all over the place rushed over and gathered together. All of a sudden, the crowd became even more powerful. For a time, the Five Elements sect did not manage to intimidate them. Instead, they became the ones being intimidated. However, the reaction of the immortal cultivation world was quite swift. As soon as they heard that the Five Elements sect and the demon clan were in a stalemate, a large number of immortal cultivators immediately rushed over from all directions. Among them, there were many powerhouses above the nascent soul realm. The other large sects had also sent experts to help. When the 8 demon kings of the demon clan heard the news, they rushed over from all over. When they arrived, they led most of their subordinates. The demon clan was also constantly growing. When the 8 demon kings gathered, the situation changed. In the 5 elemental mountain range, they were locked in a stalemate with the cultivators from the world of immortals. The cultivators from the world of immortals had the advantage in numbers, while the demons had 8 demon monarchs. Each of these demon monarchs was an invincible powerhouse, and body integration cultivators were no match for them at all. The bloody facts of the battle had fully demonstrated their strength. In the human immortal cultivation world, no one knew where the cultivators above the tribulation transcendence realm were. For a time, there was no one who could match them alone. For a time, on one hand, they were worried about the number of opponents, and on the other hand, they were worried about the unparalleled combat power of the 8 demon kings. They did not dare to act rashly and were in a stalemate in the 5 elements mountain range. However, the atmosphere was also unusually silent. Tion had rushed back to the southern barbarian lands to help the 10,000 Demon Valley out of their predicament, so he missed this exciting scene. It had been more than half a month since the integration of the 10,000 Demon Valley was completed. Throughout the process, Tion gave out rewards and established their respective responsibilities. For a time, the demons in the valley also followed suit. Tion's prestige could be said to be unique in the valley. No one could compare to him. Not to mention that most of the demons in the valley were brought over by him from Tiger Hill back then. His domineering return in the formation map and his act of killing thousands of cultivators with a song had created countless prestige for him on the spot. Walking in the valley, all the demons looked at him with undisguised respect and fanaticism in their eyes. Naturally, there was no obstruction in the integration. Hua and the others were all selecting suitable candidates. This integration and division was only the first part of his plan. However, the next move required the demons in the valley to complete the most basic run-in before it could be carried out. On this day, in front of the waterfall, Tion and Chun she stood side by side. Chun she was holding a peony in his hand. He gently plucked the petals one by one and floated them into the water, allowing the petals to flow with the current. Sure, Tion, do you mean that you want to build a city? Chun she softly spat out a sentence. Looking carefully at his face, there was not much fluctuation in his tone. It was not that she was not surprised. It was really that these days in the 10,000 Demon Valley, a series of actions had completely made her feel that it was not strange. Dividing subordinates into various positions and rewarding them was still reasonable and understandable. However, the matter of merit points, in Chun-Chi's heart, was no less than a clap of thunder in the chaos. There was no doubt about her intelligence. Naturally, she could think of the key points in it. She also understood that once the implementation of merit points was successful, it would bring about incredible changes. This was to revive a pool of stagnant water. Now, Tion threw out a long-planned idea to her to build a 10,000 demon city. Yes, the matter of building a city cannot be changed. Only by building a 10,000 demon city can we truly create cohesion and continue to develop. Tion faced Chin-Shi. There was a kind of gentleness in his voice that was not usually there. When he looked at her, he did not hide the aggressive affection in his eyes. His thinking was different from that of other demons. For humans to prosper and develop, cities and towns were indispensable. Living in a place for a long time, one would develop feelings and a sense of belonging. Often, when you said that you lived in a certain big city, you would feel a sense of pride. In the world of immortal cultivation, various sects occupied some mountains full of spirit chi, settled down in the mountains or valleys, and then built houses and palaces in them. Tion did not want to do this. He wanted to build a city, an ancient city that had never existed before, and make it famous. As early as in his idea, the ancient city to be built would not be an ordinary ancient city. It was an ancient city, but also a powerful treasure. It could defend against enemies, fly, and live. Everything would be combined into one, a unique demon city. He wanted anyone to think of the 10,000 demon city when they mentioned the demon race. According to what you said, the 10,000 demon city will be like a magic treasure with all kinds of magic, comparable to a supreme treasure, comparable to an innate spirit treasure. I am afraid that it will not be an easy task to complete. The materials, the formations, the various restrictions, and so on. Chun, she said, glanced at Tion and said bluntly, even if you get the treasures of the heavenly demon Zu, it is impossible to complete. Even in ancient times, there were not many such treasures. For Tion, since she followed him back to the 10,000 Demon Valley, he discussed many things with her. She was blunt and said what was in her heart. She was really beginning to think for him. Although she did not say anything, some of her actions showed that her attitude towards him had slowly eased. Although she was shocked by Tion's bold idea, but she still pointed out the main points like a wife. She did not let him follow blindly. Hearing this, Tion's heart flashed a trace of warmth. He turned to look at Shi. How many years had it been? He did not know how many years he had not had such a warm feeling. He smiled and said confidently, "Don't worry, since I said so and dare to outline such an ancient city, I am confident that I can complete it. In a few days, I will go to the exquisite pagoda for a closed-door training. If I get something, building this treasure-level ancient city will no longer be a fantasy." Huh? Chun-Shi's eyebrows flashed a trace of doubt. She wondered why he was so confident, but she didn't open her mouth to ask. As usual, whatever Tion said, she would naturally hear. If he didn't say, she wouldn't ask. "When the time comes, you will go in with me," Tion suddenly said. "Okay, I have only heard of the exquisite creation pagoda. I will go in and see the pagoda's incredible ability to reverse time and space." Chun-Shi did not hesitate to agree. Just when Sakura still wanted to say something, suddenly he made a sound of surprise. He raised his head and looked out of the valley. A sparkling and translucent jade light broke through the air. Its speed was very fast. Even cultivators would find it difficult to catch its trace. Even if they could see it, it would be difficult to intercept it. However, this jade light seemed to be coming towards him. Once it came close, it naturally attracted his demon's sense. He reached out and caught the jade light in his hand. It was very easy. The jade light wrapped a jade talisman. At a glance, he could see that this jade talisman was a sound transmission jade talisman. He casually crushed it. In an instant, a divine thought rushed into his mind from the broken jade talisman. For a moment, his eyes closed. He looked like he was concentrating on reading the information contained in the divine thought. After a long time, he opened his eyes. His eyes were shining with a domineering sharpness. When Chun-Shi saw it, a rare trace of curiosity arose in his heart. He asked just now, you should know the 8 great demon kings. The jade talisman just now was sent by Silver Hair. Tion looked up at the void. His eyes were deep, and a strong power emerged from his body. He took a deep breath and said, "This time, the world of immortal cultivators took advantage of the fact that most of the elites of the demon clan went to the heavenly demon secret realm to encircle and annihilate the demon clan. I don't know how many demon clans have been killed. At that time, when the news was heard on Yinbo Island, the demons were furious and rushed to kill all the major sects in the world of immortal cultivators. According to the Jade Talisman, they killed hundreds of immortal cultivators along the way. However, they were in a stalemate with a large number of cultivators in the world of immortal cultivators in the 5 Elements mountain range." What? Even Chun-Shi, who had always been elegant, could not help but be stunned by this news. She had been besieged in the southern barbarian lands, so she knew very little about the outside world. She never thought that such an earth-shattering event would happen in the outside world. Her heart was full of disbelief. Now the demon clan's Numa has been greatly damaged in the encirclement and annihilation. They can't withstand such a great loss. If they collide with a world of immortal cultivators like this, the remaining Numa of the demon clan will be consumed. Chun-Shi saw the far-reaching overall situation. Their current actions were obviously a little irrational. But then again, if they were still rational in such a situation, the demon clan would have lost their courage. How far could they be from being exterminated? Don't worry. Silverhair mentioned in the Jade Talisman this time that the 8 great demon kings gathered in the 5 Elements Mountains. Each of them has the powerful strength of an ancient demon king. If the old monster in the tribulation stage doesn't appear, no one in the world of immortal cultivators can defeat them if they fight alone. However, there are too many practitioners in the world of immortal cultivators. Now they are blocked in the 5 Elements Mountains and can't advance or retreat. Di could not help but exclaim. The demon clan, immersed in anger, was really unbelievably powerful. They could annihilate hundreds of sects in succession. Chun-Shi pondered for a moment and said, "Then this time you sent the Jade Talisman here. I'm afraid it's not for nothing." Her keen intuition instantly guessed the meaning. "Yes, Silverhair invited me to participate in the Immortal Demon competition." Di smiled faintly and casually threw the broken Jade Talisman into his hand. He said, "Now the world of immortal cultivators has no match for the 8 great demon kings. But there are many practitioners, and the practitioners above the nascent soul stage are also numerous. If we really fight, our demon clan will also suffer immeasurable losses. It seems that the world of immortal cultivators doesn't want to fight with the 8 great demon kings thoroughly now, so they finally set the Immortal Demon competition." His words were also full of interest. In the Immortal Demon competition, if the immortal cultivators won, the demon clan had to retreat and could not kill each other for 100 years. If the demon clan won, the world of immortal cultivators would take out a huge amount of various treasures and resources. At the same time, the demon clan that had been captured before would be released. It was known that the number of demon clan that had been captured was probably no less than 100,000. Immortal Demon competition? How? Chun-Shi pondered and asked. Di shook his head and said, "I don't know. Silverhair only said that the competition will be held on the 9th of September. There's still 3 months before now, and we will meet in the 5-element mountain range." He didn't say anything else. "Are you going?" Chun-Shi frowned slightly. "I have to go. I am also a member of the demon clan. How can I, Di miss such a grand event like the Immortal Demon competition? I can also get to know the other demon kings and see the various methods in the world of immortal cultivators." Di said decisively without hesitation. No matter what, the world of immortal cultivators would always be an enemy that he would face in the future. On the heaven-reaching Yin-Yang Bridge, he had fought a bloody battle with a large number of practitioners. Although the battle was fierce, he could not see most of the methods of the immortal cultivators because his cultivation was sealed. This was a great opportunity to officially meet them. This Immortal Demon competition was definitely not a small matter. If he did not go, he might regret it for the rest of his life. Hearing this, Chun-Shi pondered for a while and nodded. She did not stop him. "Since you have made up your mind, I will take care of the Myriad Demon Valley for you. It is not appropriate for me to fight with others now. If not, I will go with you." Di felt a little confused when he heard this. He pondered for a while, but could not think of a reason, so he did not ask too much. There were still 3 months left. With a floating cloud boat, he could reach the 5-element mountain range in a few days. There was no need to rush. 1 year outside the pagoda was 10 years inside the pagoda. Di entered the exquisite pagoda with Chun-Shi the next day. They had a short, closed-door training. Near the 5 Elements mountain range, there were 2 figures standing on top of an inconspicuous mountain peak, looking down at the 5 Elements mountain range. Above the mountain range One side was filled with rolling demonic chi. It was so dark that there was no light at all. On the other side, the five-element spirit light alternated and the five-element chi was very rich. It was faintly resisting. If one looked carefully, one would find that on this mountain peak, one was a sloppy old man who looked like an old urchin. The other was a man in black clothes with loose hair who appeared out of thin air. His body faintly exuded a peerless power. His face was as sharp as a knife, and he was unusually indifferent, as if nothing could stay in his eyes for a moment. His eyes were extremely cold. If Tion was here, he would recognize that the sloppy old man in front of him was the know-it-all he met in the Zither Sound Valley. And this middle-aged man was the mysterious devil monarch who had appeared outside the southern wilderness. The devil monarch's cold eyes fell on the five-element mountain range, and he did not speak for a long time. The world says that the devil monarch is ruthless and temperamental. In my opinion, it is more emotional. Did the devil monarch think that the encirclement of the immortal cultivation world would arouse the remaining blood in the demon clan? The know-it-all shouted a few times and looked at the rolling demon aura. In his eyes, there was a different kind of emotion. Oomph. In the end, they did not fall into the demon clan's ancient glory. Even if they want to exterminate the demon clan, they will die on the road of battle. Even if they die, their souls will not be extinguished. The devil monarch spat out coldly. When the know-it-all heard this, he smiled inexplicably and suddenly said, "Devil monarch, I recently found a very good junior. Ziyue has already laid out her chess pieces and made her choice." Ziyue? For the first time, there was a trace of fluctuation in the devil monarch's eyes. He pondered for a moment and said, "Back then, she said that she wanted to choose a king for the demon clan. She did not hesitate to give up countless years of cultivation. Well, let's wait and see if the king she chose really has the ability to reach the heavens. Save the demon clan from the brink of collapse. If he really can, perhaps the demon clan still has a glimmer of hope." After the devil monarch finished speaking, he looked deeply at the know-it-all and said, "The world tree's seed is about to mature. If he can obtain it, I will give him a big gift. If not, I will leave the continent and go to the nest of 1,000 demons." After saying this, the devil monarch mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The know-it-all stayed for a moment and also left. It was as if they did not care about the person in front of them at all. Or the scene in front of them was as childish as a child and not worth their attention. On the other hand, Tion brought she into the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. Second update, 10,000 words update complete. If you have a ticket, please help me. The climax is coming. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 346. The Exquisite Creation Pagoda was divided into 9 levels. The first level could reverse time by 10 times. 1 year outside was 10 years inside the pagoda. Going up another level, the power to reverse time would be even stronger. From the first level to the second level, there was a staircase with 9 steps. At the end of the 9 steps was the door to the second level. In the beginning, Tion had tried it himself. Before he created the Book of the Emperor, shocking the world, he could only take 3 steps on the staircase before he was pressed down by a great force and rolled down the stairs. Later, when he created the Book of the Emperor, shocking the world, he broke through the realm of sorrow. His mind was detached from sorrow, and his demonic essence and the power of desire merged into one, forming the Emperor True Force. His cultivation level reached the first transformation Yaodan, and his strength increased greatly. Compared to before, it was a world of difference. However, he had a series of things to deal with, and did not have the time to spend on it. He had not tried to go up to the second level yet. Naturally, he did not know what kind of mysteries lay in the second level. This is the first level of the Exquisite Creation Pagoda. There's a universe inside. Don't think that it is only a few miles wide. In fact, no matter how many things you put in, it will never feel crowded. It can fit in hundreds of thousands of people at once. Di Shirtian brought Shun-Shi into the world inside the pagoda in the blink of an eye. He smiled faintly and introduced, "There are thousands of scrolls of the demon clan stored in the courtyard. If you're interested, you can look through them at will. A year here is only a little more than a month outside." Heavenly Demon Zeus treasure is indeed extraordinary. It contains everything like a mustard seed. It can reverse heaven and earth in reverse time. With it, what you are about to do will be infinitely beneficial. Shun-Shi did not have any objections to Di Shirtian's way of addressing him. His plain clothes fluttered, and his long hair fell over his shoulders. To put it mildly, he looked at the only courtyard here. His eyes flashed with a strange light. He was very interested in the thousands of scrolls of the demon clan stored inside. He walked towards the courtyard. Di Shirtian looked at the graceful fairy descending to the mortal world. She moved like a swimming dragon. Her mysterious temperament seemed to be constantly changing. The pride of 100 flowers condensed in her body. Her original form of the Xana strange flower caused her temperament to constantly change. She never stayed in one temperament for too long. She was like a spirit of 100 transformations, even more mysterious. "One day, I will win your heart. At that time, you will be my wife." After Indra watched Shun-Shi enter the study room, he smiled faintly and turned towards a very conspicuous flight of stairs on the left. The flight of stairs was completely black. If one didn't look carefully, it would be very difficult to discover the densely imprinted mysterious seal characters. When one looked at the flight of stairs from the outside, one would only feel that this flight of stairs was very ordinary, plain and unadorned, just like an ordinary flight of stairs. At the end of the 9 staircases, there was a door. Obviously, that door was the entrance to the second level. Heavenly Demon Zeus said that the 1,000,000 demons in the mystery realm would be sucked into the exquisite pagoda along with the mystery realm. But now, they are not in the first level. The most likely possibility is that they are in the second or third level. There are also countless treasures in the spirit-quenching treasure vault. The Spider Lily Island, which is comparable to a treasure mountain, seems to have been separated when they were sucked into the pagoda. I wonder where they are. If I want to achieve my vision, the 1,000,000 demons in the mystery realm and the huge treasure vault are all indispensable and important resources. Di Shirtian took a deep breath. Various thoughts flashed through his mind. He took a step forward and stepped on the staircase. As soon as he stepped on the first step, a heavy pressure suddenly appeared on his body. It pressed down on his shoulders. The space around him seemed to have solidified in an instant. It was incomparably sticky. Compared to moving outside, he had to exert more strength and expend a lot of energy. He could clearly see that the staircase under his feet was emitting bursts of black light. The mysterious seal characters flowed like flowing water. There was a strong repulsive force on top of it that wanted to push him out. Pata, Di Shirtian was not pushed down the staircase by this strong pressure. He did not even use the royal true force. He directly used his strong demon body to withstand this strange force. His feet stepped on the staircase. He did not move or shake. It was as if he had grown roots. Even his expression did not change. It did not stop him at all. He lifted his foot and stepped on the second step without hesitation. With this step, he stepped on the second step. The staircase on the second step flashed with black light like the first step. A stronger pressure and repulsive force than the first step surged at the same time. It pressed down on his body like a small mountain. However, this was still not enough to make him change his expression. His footsteps did not stop at all. He continued to step up. When he reached the fourth step, the heavy pressure from the staircase allowed him to use the royal true force. When he used his true force, his body also became lighter. 9 steps in a row. His feet did not stop. His waist was straight. With every step, the pressure on his body increased. If it was a demon beast, it was likely that he would be able to reach the second step and would be a strong warrior of the same realm. On the third step, even a demon with an inner core might not be able to withstand it. However, Di Shirtian cultivated the book of shocking the world. His demon body was tempered by this peerless book and was far stronger than any demon of the same realm. The royal true force was unimaginably pure. When he used his true force, although there was still a heavy pressure on his body, it did not become an obstacle. In just 9 short steps, he walked for a full quarter of an hour. It was obvious how difficult it was. Phew! Sakura lightly exhaled as he turned his head to look at the 9 steps behind him. He mused to himself. These 9 steps are used to test one's cultivation base. If I hadn't broken through and reached the first revolution realm, I'm afraid I would still be rejected by these steps. It seems like if I want to enter the second step, my cultivation base must at least reach the first revolution realm and enter the path of demonic cultivation. Looking up at the desolate ancient pagoda door in front of him, he stretched out his right hand and pushed forward. I wonder what kind of changes there will be in the second step and how much time and space can be reversed. Reversing time and space was the most important. This was stealing time in front of God. The more time and space the pagoda could reverse, the more advantageous it would be for him. What he lacked was time. Not only him, but the entire myriad demon valley also lacked time. Boom, boom, boom. The pagoda door was as heavy as a small mountain, but under Di Shirtian's push, it was still slowly pushed open. The pagoda door opened, letting out a roar like the roar of an ancient wild beast. Light shot out from the door, but it wasn't dazzling. Following the light, he looked inside. Suddenly, a purple light rushed into his mind. There was a strange message in the purple light, making Sakura have no choice but to close his eyes and quickly absorb this strange message. After a long time, he opened his eyes and walked through the door. His eyes suddenly opened up, and what appeared in front of him was a lush green grassland. As he breathed, a mouthful of extremely rich spirit chi directly entered his body through his nose. His body and mind were instantly relaxed. What rich spirit chi? It's more than twice as rich as the first step, and the ability to reverse time and space is 1 to 50. Incredible. I really don't know what material was used to refine such a treasure. Could it be the heavenly fortune jade? Sakura looked around, and the entire grassland appeared in front of him. It seemed that he could take in all the sceneries at a glance. But in fact, it was much bigger here. It still had the magical power of Sumeru mustard seed. Not only was the spiritual energy more abundant, cultivating here would yield twice the result with half the effort. Moreover, the time reversal had actually reached 50 times. 1 year in the outside world was equivalent to 50 years here. Compared to the first step, this was a heaven-defying existence. 50 times the time reversal, 1.5 months outside is 5 or 6 years here. Previously, I was worried that I might not be able to break the restriction in a year and comprehend the mystery contained in that thing. Now, it's a coincidence that I have 5 or 6 years to solve the matter at hand. With my current cultivation, I should be able to break the restriction. Di Shirtian murmured to himself. Looking around, he did not mind. He took a few steps forward and sat down on a grassland. He patted his storage bag, and a spiritual light flew out. He caught it in his hand. Looking at it, it was a crystal clear jade slip. The jade slip was flowing with jade light, and it was no different from an ordinary jade slip. Back then, I couldn't break the restriction inside. At that time, I only had the strength of the monster beast realm. However, this time I'm very different from before. I don't believe that I can't break the restriction here with my current monster core first transformation realm cultivation. Di Shirtian held the jade slip, and a trace of determination appeared in his eyes. This jade slip was not simple, nor was it ordinary. When he first left the southern barbarian and went to the secular world, he met the current emperor of China, Hua Wenwu. He took it from the China consecrator. At that time, he did not pay much attention to it. Later, he found that it recorded the method to converge the power of faith. This was another kind of spiritual cultivation method, condensing the power of faith of all living beings and returning it to one's own body. It would let one's own body decay and directly become a divine body. Carrying the power of faith of all living beings, one would become a god and master all kinds of indescribable magical powers. This kind of spiritual cultivation method, compared to a mortal cultivation method, was even more incredible. It was a method to become a god with the help of all living beings. Not only was the time shorter than a mortal cultivation, but often, as long as there was enough power of faith, it could easily create a powerhouse. It was said that this spiritual cultivation method was actually promoted by the human race. When the human race rose, there was a top spiritual cultivation powerhouse. Unfortunately, this method was too envied. It seemed that there was a hidden danger in it, and it inexplicably lost its inheritance. The power of faith was too eye-catching because it was too easy to obtain. In the imperial capital of China, Di Shitian's totem statue was still standing in the center. After a few years, it was unknown how much power of faith it had gathered. It was so huge that even the totem statue itself had various magical powers. If I can use it, I will soar to the sky. Di Shitian was very clear that if he could get the help of the power of faith, it would be inconceivable to him. And the root of all this was the inconspicuous jade slip in his hand. Taking a deep breath, he closed his eyes and put all his mind on the jade slip in his hand. His demonic awareness instantly entered the jade slip and carefully explored it around the jade slip. He had long found that there were 9 layers of enchantments in the jade slip. The first layer could be easily broken, which was the previous understanding of the power of faith and the power of faith. But the second layer of enchantment was not only strange, but also had an inexplicable feeling. The aura exuding from the enchantment was quite strange. There was the power of faith and the aura of heaven and earth, as if the two were mixed together to form the enchantment. It was quite tough. It was fine if he didn't use force, but when his demonic awareness hit the enchantment could still rebound. At that time, he was not paying attention and was injured. This time, when he broke the enchantment again, he would not be as careless as before. After a long time, his eyes opened, and the purple king mark on his forehead flashed violently. A purple light that seemed to be solid instantly shot out from his forehead like a sharp arrow and rushed directly into the jade slip. Boom! In an instant, the jade slip in his hand suddenly burst out with an intense milky white light. At the same time, it rapidly transformed into a snow-white plum blossom outside the jade slip. In the middle of the plum blossom, the purple light that shot out from Sakura's body was shockingly blocked outside the plum blossom. Although the plum blossom was constantly trembling under the impact of the purple light, it quickly turned around, and immediately, the purple light was reversed by a strange force and returned to Sakura himself. Break! Di Shitian's expression was dignified. He stretched out his left hand, and a golden light appeared on his index finger. An overbearing aura was emitted from it, and he directly pointed at the purple light. Amidst the rumbling, the purple light was unavoidably dispersed by the finger. Looking at the jade slip, he did not move anymore and thought to himself, "The enchantment in the jade slip looks like the plum flower enchantment, but it is not. The power in this enchantment seems to be leaning toward the power of faith. I just can't break it with 70% of my divine sense. It is not simple, not simple. I don't know who left this jade slip behind. Logically, with my current strength, it is impossible that I can't break it. Could it be that there's some other way?" Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, and he hesitated. This jade slip has traces of the power of faith. Could it be that breaking the enchantment requires the power of faith? In an instant, he thought of a possibility. He had to say that this was indeed a feasible method, and there was no lack of reason. After all, the jade slip clearly stored things about the power of faith. Perhaps breaking the enchantment was really related to this power of faith. If it did not work, he did not dare to continue. He just felt that under the impact of the divine sense, the enchantment did show signs of collapse, but seemed to break together with the jade slip. It seemed that the way to break the enchantment was wrong. If he forced it, he might destroy the jade slip. Well, I don't believe that I can't break this enchantment today. Di Shitian pondered for a moment, and his eyes flashed with a determined look. For others, the power of faith was a very difficult thing to obtain, but for him, it was as much as he wanted. He had the worship of the whole of China, and a large number of people worshipped him with incense in the morning and evening. Every day, there was a huge amount of power of faith entering the totem statue, and the totem itself was him. It was just that he had no way to absorb it, so he had no choice but to allow this massive amount of power of will to condense on the statue. However, no matter where the statue was, even in the sky, fey, mystic realm, there was still a faint connection with it. With just a thought, his consciousness could descend onto the statue. He could also absorb the huge amount of power of faith gathered in the statue into himself with a thought. With a thought, his mind was connected with the totem statue of China, and he felt the huge amount of power of faith in the totem. "Drawl," he shouted, and suddenly, in the void in front of him, a whirlpool suddenly appeared. The whirlpool was not big, but as it spun, a milky white gas was drawn out of the whirlpool and appeared in front of him. It was none other than a legendary power of faith that was invisible, but it became short in front of him, as if it was real. Break. Seeing this wisp of power of will extracted from the totem idol, Indra's expression suddenly became quite dignified. With a light shout, a purple light once again shot out from his forehead. However, it didn't directly rush into the jade slip like before. Instead, it fell into the power of will, wrapped the power of will inside, and carried some of it to the jade slip. Poof! Outside the jade slip, the plum blossom restriction reappeared, but when it collided with the divine thought again, the scene was different. When a restriction was touched by the divine thought, immediately, the power of faith quickly rushed into the restriction. With a sound like a balloon being punctured by a needle, the plum blossom restriction was instantly broken, as if it had never appeared. At the same time, the divine thought entered the jade slip, and a huge amount of information from the jade slip instantly rushed into his mind through the divine thought. This information was very large, and when it entered his mind, it was quite violent. Even he felt that his head was suddenly hit by a hammer, and he was dizzy. If it were not for the recent great improvement in his cultivation, which had entered another level, and his mind had been tested by the sad state, as if it had been thoroughly tempered, he might have been turned into an idiot on the spot. Even so, he still felt like he couldn't catch his breath. After a long time, what a powerful method to make such a jade slip and leave such a fierce move after breaking the restriction. However, compared to what I got this time, this is not worth mentioning. His eyes shone brightly with a rare excitement. I didn't expect the power of faith to have such an effect. The creativity of humans is really incredible. It's a pity that there's no way to cultivate with the help of the power of faith in the second restriction. Although it's a pity, it's still a great gain to obtain this strange power of faith. Tian's eyebrows showed a hint of joy. There were 9 restrictions in the jade slip. After breaking the second restriction, he still did not get the method to use the power of faith to cultivate, but he got a method to use the power of faith. This method, in the jade slip, was called the condensed object of the power of faith. This method could be said to be unimaginable by the people who found it, was actually a combination of the power of faith and the refining method in the world of immortal cultivation, forming a kind of strange method that was somewhat useless. The method of fusion, in fact, was very similar to the jade slip in Tian's hand. In other words, it was an object created by the condensed object of the power of faith. It was very strange. If he didn't already have the power of faith, other people would not be able to break it, no matter how high their cultivation was. The key was that the method was wrong. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 347. It seems similar to the various restrictions in the world of immortal cultivators, but the power in the restriction was not the familiar real essence Dharma power, but the real essence mixed with the power of wish, forming a strange balance. Just like Tian's Huangji true force, it was a kind of magical true force formed by the fusion of the demonic spirit formed by the power of heaven and earth and the infinite desire of all living beings. Of course, the restriction obviously did not perfectly merge together like the Huangji true force to form a new true force. It just merged together like two sides of yin and yang, entangled together like a tai chi in this way. It seemed very strange. If one wanted to break the restriction, one must understand the power of wish and be familiar with it. Otherwise, no matter how powerful one was, they would still be at a loss. After the second layer of the jade slip was broken, what was recorded inside was how to fuse the force of will with various refinement materials, transforming them into a mysterious material. This material was called divine crystal in the jade slip. It was said that it was very marvelous. Inside, there was a method to smelt and fuse the force of will with various refinement materials. No matter what material was used to fuse the force of will, the final result would be the same type of crystal. However, this kind of refinement method was something that Sakura wouldn't be able to execute in a short period of time, because the conditions for smelting the divine crystal were quite harsh. First, a pot needed to be refined. This pot was recorded in the jade slip, called the smelting god pot. It was very difficult to refine it. The materials needed were not too harsh. Even if the materials were inferior, it could still be refined. However, if the materials were poor, it would collapse during the refining process, wasting effort. Moreover, even if it was refined with high-grade materials, it might not be able to withstand the refining of the divine crystal several times. Therefore, although it was not explicitly stated, it was obvious that the materials used to refine the smelting god pot had to be particular. Moreover, to refine the divine crystal, it needed to be smelted together with the power of wish. The more precious and the higher the quality of the materials, the higher the quality of the divine crystal obtained, and the more the quantity. There was no doubt that a large number of precious materials were needed to condense the divine crystal. All kinds of restrictions prevented Di Shirtian from obtaining the divine crystals in a short period of time. However, the divine crystals were something he desperately wanted. God crystals like this have to be in your hands, Yang Qi said. As long as you have the soul refining gourd and find the necessary materials, it won't be difficult to make God crystals. God crystals contain the quintessence of both the Tao of immortality and the Tao of gods. They can be fused with both the power of will and spiritual power. If you use God crystals to build Myriad Demon City, you can turn the entire city into a precious treasure that you can refine as you please. You can use the power of faith and the energy of heaven and earth to carve restrictive spells on each of the God crystals. Moreover, it was a restriction that outsiders couldn't understand. At that time, you'll be able to attack and defend as you please, advancing and retreating as you please. In his mind, he imagined the scene of using divine crystals to build an ancient city. It would definitely be an unparalleled pioneering work. It was possible that it could become a heaven-shaking treasure. However, he only imagined it for a moment before he came back to his senses. Di Shirtian wasn't someone who would only put his ideas into fantasy. He was just setting a goal for himself to move forward in, a direction to strive for. In an instant, he buried the ancient city made of divine crystals deep in his heart. For the time being, he didn't think too much about it and used it to spur himself. After calming himself down, he once again focused on the power of wish from incense and thought to himself, the power of wish from incense is also a kind of power that opposes the power of desire, but has the same nature. They are both formed from the thoughts and the hearts of all living beings. However, desire is filled with all kinds of obscenity and evil. It's terrifying to touch it, but it's the nature of all living beings that is the most impossible to abandon. As for the power of wish, it's the most beautiful thing in one's heart. When a sincere wish is entrusted, this kind of power is pure and can be truly absorbed. If I really calculate it, there isn't much difference between the nature of desire and the power of wish. If I can absorb the power of desire, can I also find a way to absorb the power of wish from incense at the same time? Only Han Sun knew the Extreme King's shocking book. He hadn't finished it yet. He had only created the first part of it. He had only created the framework for the rest of it. He hadn't reached the next level yet, so he couldn't create the next level of practice out of nothing. For now, he had broken through to the first level of the book of Shocking the King, but he was still practicing it. He kept perfecting it, finding flaws, and fixing them. He used his own personal experience to perfect the technique. Now, he once again focused on the power of wish from incense and thought to himself about whether or not he could combine the power of wish with his own body to help him practice. If he could do it, with the huge amount of power of wish that he had accumulated, it would be normal to say that he could travel 1,000 miles in a day. After thinking about it, he still didn't have much of a clue. The power of wish was the most passionate belief of all living beings. If he didn't know the method and just absorbed it, he would be damaged. In this regard, it was more troublesome than the power of desire. After thinking for a long time, combined with what he had learned from the Jade Scroll, he had a vague understanding, but he couldn't grasp it. He had to open his eyes and stop obsessing about it. He would just have to wait for the opportunity in the future. He reached out and put the Jade Scroll back. Then he patted the storage bag. A spiritual light flew out and landed in his hand. He looked at it and saw a green ancient box in his hand. On the ancient box, strange patterns were distributed in various places. They connected into one and exuded a mysterious aura. It was called a box, but there was no gap on it. Only the front of the box was densely packed with squares of the same size. Each square had a pattern on it, like small tadpoles. Often, it took a few pieces to form a small pattern. However, these puzzles were presented in a way that resembled a virtual mustard seed. Although they looked small, they were not small at all. There were tens of thousands of puzzles, but if one looked closely, they would find that at this time, most of the puzzles had been put together and connected into a large, complete picture. There was only one place on the upper right corner that wasn't completed. It was messily arranged. Now that I've entered the second level of the pagoda, I can reverse time by 50 times. There's enough time for me to complete all the puzzles on the Admirable Treasure Box. Last time, I completed it and obtained the mysterious ancient scroll, which allowed me to learn the 7 sins divine melody. This time, I should be able to gain something. Sakura took a deep breath and focused all of his attention on the jigsaw puzzle in front of him. When he was in the heavenly monster secret domain, while he was comprehending the various secret techniques of the monster race, he would often think about the jigsaw puzzle in the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box. From time to time, he would take it out and put it together. After decades in the pagoda, he had more or less completed the puzzle. Looking at the painting in front of him, he could already see the general outline. This was a painting of 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. In the painting, one could really see the traces of 100 birds standing among the treetops. That kind of expression of respect towards the king of birds was vividly displayed in the painting. Just by looking at this painting, one would naturally feel as if they were there. The part that was missing was the position of the phoenix's head. It seemed to be on the verge of appearing, but it wasn't easy to put it together. The pieces were too small, and the marks on each piece were extremely rare. Every time he moved it, he had to deduce it in his mind. He had to do it hundreds and thousands of times. Every deduction required a lot of mental energy. It was very difficult. To put it bluntly, the time that Sakura had spent on the jigsaw puzzle was no less than 10 years. That was how he had achieved the result he had today. With the pagoda's ability to reverse time, he could stay in the pagoda for 5 to 6 years, which was enough time for him to complete the puzzle. He was also curious about the mysteries of the Admirable Treasure Box. Would it spit out some incredible treasures like last time? 1 year, 2 years, pot. When half of the 3rd year was about to pass, finally, Sakura, who had been concentrating his mind and calculating with all his heart, suddenly spat out a mouthful of turbid air. His eyes carried traces of fatigue as he looked at the pagoda. The jigsaw above had been completely completed. The complete picture of 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix was vividly presented before his eyes. In the picture, even the feathers of the birds could be seen clearly. However, there was a small gap in the corner. It was used to place the blank piece that he had pulled out. Having experienced it once, he knew that once it was placed, something would definitely happen. He wasn't in a hurry. First, he closed his eyes and activated his cultivation technique. Traces of the royal true force flowed through his meridians like flowing water. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth was like a funnel, forming a strange spiritual energy vortex above his head. A huge amount of spiritual energy was continuously poured into his body. There was also a pitch-black power of desire that appeared from the void. The admirable treasure box was too mysterious. He didn't want any accidents to happen. No matter what, before he opened it, he had to adjust his energy to its peak. That way, even if there were any changes, he would have the ability to react. It wouldn't cause any regrets. This meditation lasted for a total of 3 days and 3 nights. Only then did the spiritual energy funnel above his head disappear. Swoosh! When he opened his eyes, 2 rays of light flashed. However, in an instant, they became reserved, appearing deep and profound. With a turn of his hand, a blank piece of paper appeared in his hand. Gathering his energy, he carefully pressed the piece of paper into the last gap of the puzzle. Roar! With this press, Sakura's figure retreated a few steps back without leaving a trace. His eyes stared fixedly at the treasure box, not letting go of any scene that was about to appear. Sure enough, as he expected, there really was a change. The moment he pressed, he saw that the puzzle picture on the treasure box suddenly came to life. It really came to life. Strange birds flew out of the painting one after another, as if they had really come back to life from the painting. Crisp and melodious chirps rose and fell one after another, connecting together into one sound, which was exactly the same as the scene in the painting. When all the birds had flown out and were chirping as if they were worshipping a king, Yi Zichen suddenly stopped. The 7-colored phoenix in the picture also raised its proud head, flapped its wings, and flew up. Whoosh! The sound of the phoenix was like the sound of nature. It lingered in one's ears for hundreds of times. It was really too wonderful for words. It flapped its wings and flew up into the sky. Under the encirclement of hundreds of birds, it vividly portrayed the scene of hundreds of birds worshipping the phoenix. The beauty of the scene could only be described, but not described with words. However, just as Di Shirton couldn't help but immerse his mind in this wonderful scene that he had never seen before, a crisp sound broke the scene in front of him. The scene of hundreds of birds worshipping the phoenix was like a mirror that was shattered by this sudden sound. It shattered into countless pieces and disappeared. What a pity! Di Shirton shook his head secretly, a little disappointed. After all, the picture that was destroyed was not alive. It was just a reflection of the painting's artistic conception. Perhaps it would be difficult for him to see a similar scene in his life. It was broken in such a short time. It was a kind of incomplete. However, his eyes followed the direction of the sound and fixed on it. The sound came from the edge of the treasure box. When he saw it, his eyes couldn't help but shrink slightly. A look of astonishment appeared on his face. This is the treasure that came out of the imperial heavenly treasure box. Di Shirton was a little surprised. It wasn't that he was surprised that the treasure box would spit out a treasure. He had encountered it once before and was immune to it. He was just surprised by the item that appeared this time. What did you think was at the edge of the treasure box? It was a purple eye that looked like a purple crystal. However, it emitted a strange light. The purple light flowed around it, appearing very mysterious. It was as if it contained an unimaginable magic power. As it flashed, the eye seemed to be blinking on its own. It was a living eye. Suddenly, when he suddenly saw an eye like this, even with his incomparably firm will, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and he was extremely surprised. He didn't understand why such an unknown eyeball would possibly jump out from within a treasure box. Other than that, there was a second item. This item was a scroll that was exactly the same as the ancient scroll he obtained back then. The ancient aura exuded from it indicated that this ancient scroll was as ancient as the ancient scroll he obtained back then. When he glanced at the imperial heavenly treasure box again, the puzzle pieces on the box had already vanished, and no new puzzle pieces appeared. There was only the silhouette of a jade-green ancient tree. This ancient tree had lush branches and leaves, exuding a sense of vitality. However, on this tree branch, there were 9 strange indentations. The indentations weren't large, but from the looks of it, they seemed to have been imprinted by something like a seed. The indentations were placed at a strange angle as well. They hung on the tree branch, resembling the fruits of the tree. Who created this imperial heavenly treasure box? First, it was the puzzle pieces. And now, the meaning of the indentations seems to be that it wants me to find something to inscribe on the treasure box. Could it be that if I fill in these 9 indentations, the treasure box will open again? The mystery of the imperial heavenly treasure box still existed. No matter how he tried, he couldn't figure out the meaning of this treasure box's existence. Could it be that this was merely a test? A treasure hunt? No, Tion didn't think it was so simple. Who created this treasure box? What was the purpose of this treasure box? He couldn't guess it at all. It was as though he was shrouded in a layer of fog that he couldn't see through. Thoughts flashed through his mind rapidly. Although he was thinking about something, all of this happened in the blink of an eye. After thinking about it, he buried it deep in his heart. He walked forward and squatted down in front of the ancient scroll and the strange violet eye. Stretching his hand out, he reached out and grabbed the strange-looking eye. He wanted to examine it carefully. Effortlessly, he grabbed the violet eye. Within the violet eye, there was a trace of warmth. When it appeared in his hand, it felt like it was warm. This eye didn't seem to be dead, but was actually alive. What is this exactly? Traces of doubt flashed in his heart. While he was thinking, he sent a strand of his demonic sense into the eye. When he was examining it, he was very cautious and only used a strand of his consciousness. If there were any unforeseen circumstances, he could abandon it and sever his consciousness. Such a method could be considered cautious. Not good. However, in the end, his plan couldn't keep up with the changes. When his consciousness came into contact with the violet eye, the violet eye seemed to awaken him from a deep sleep. It suddenly emitted a shocking violet light that flickered with light. It was incomparably lively, and in an instant, it emitted a strong vitality. A huge amount of life force erupted. Tion didn't have any chance to react. Just as he said, "Not good," and before he could even activate his royal true force, he saw the violet eye flash a few times. Suddenly, it transformed into a violet light and rushed toward his head. Following that, an unimaginable piercing pain came from between his eyebrows. The pain was so intense that it was unimaginable. It was as if thousands of needles were piercing his brain. It was so painful that even his brain felt like it was going to explode. There seemed to be a hole in between his eyebrows, and then countless ants were crazily crawling. But this wasn't considered much. What was truly terrifying was that he felt a sudden change in his violet king mark. The space of his king mark began to tremble violently, and the incomparably firm king mark space actually started to crumble. This sort of crumbling force was the most painful part. What were king marks? They were the source of his innate ability. Now that it was collapsing, there was no doubt that this was robbing him of his innate divine ability. An indescribable pain crazily attacked his mind like a tidal wave. Although his mind was incomparably tough, the vibration and pain from the impact also made Sakura let out a muffled groan in an instant. With a bang, there was a rumble in his mind, and his consciousness fainted for a short period of time in order to protect himself. He didn't know that when he fainted, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the tower suddenly gathered, forming an incomparably huge spiritual energy vortex in his body. It was like a whale sucking in water, rushing into his body. A large patch of violet light covered his entire body. Lying on the grass, his body was still violently twitching from time to time. His face was pale. This change came too suddenly, so sudden that he didn't have the slightest bit of preparation and didn't even give him the slightest chance to react. It was really too sudden to the point where it couldn't be any more sudden. At this time, Chun-Shi, who was reading various ancient books in the first layer, felt somewhat uneasy, causing his mind to be unable to concentrate. He couldn't help but wonder, my mind is uneasy. This is a kind of omen. Could it be that something related to me is happening? His eyes flashed, his mind was uneasy, and he couldn't calm down to read the ancient books. He faintly realized something, put down the ancient book in his hand, got up, and walked out. When he left the study, he looked around, and his heart skipped a beat. Sure, Tian wasn't here. The world in the pagoda was like a mysterious mustard seed, and he could see everything with a single glance. However, he couldn't find that figure that should be here. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 348. He's not here. She raised her eyes and looked at the 9 steps erected at the side. The pagoda door at the top of the steps had already been pushed open. She pondered, Sure, Tian told me that there are 9 levels in the exquisite creation pagoda. This is the first level. When I came in earlier, the door to the second level was closed. Now that it has been pushed open, he has gone to the second level. In the blink of an eye, she had already summarized all the information that she could see, as if she had seen it with her own eyes. Feeling the inexplicable irritation in her heart, she no longer hesitated and quickly walked up the 9 steps. Although her footsteps were hurried, it seemed that no matter when, her posture and temperament were perfect and ever-changing. When she reached the top of the steps, her expression was slightly stunned. However, in the blink of an eye, she continued to walk forward. Step by step, it seemed that she did not stop at all. Just like that, she calmly walked up the 9 steps and entered the door. The scenery in front of her changed. She had already entered the second level of the pagoda. The emerald green grass appeared in front of her like a wave. Sure, Tian. Suddenly, her gaze congealed as her mouth unconsciously let out a cry of surprise. Even her usually indifferent state of mind that was rarely affected by external matters had also become flustered in an instant. She quickly ran forward without a care for her image. In front of her was shockingly Sakura's figure that had fallen to the ground. Although she wasn't clear what had happened to him, she could see that his body was constantly twitching and was filled with pain. How could she not know that he was definitely experiencing inhuman pain? Even he could not resist and fainted. Bang! However, just as she was about to approach Di Shurtian, a purple light suddenly burst out and instantly covered her entire body. A mysterious force immediately pushed Chun Shi's body away from Di Shurtian. The purple light contained an extremely powerful force. Even the light of dawn was unable to break through it and was forcibly pushed away. However, it did not have any intention of hurting her. Chun Shi's expression was flustered, and a trace of anxiety flashed in his eyes. A kind of worry that he had never felt before inexplicably surged into his heart. She didn't know why, but when she saw Sakura fainted on the ground and lost consciousness, a kind of anxiety and agitation emerged in her heart. It was something that she had never felt before. To put it bluntly, her heart was in a mess. How could this be? Chun Shi's mind was in a mess. For a moment, he didn't know what to think. Looking at Di Shurtian, who was shrouded in purple light, he didn't dare to act rashly, but his concern was obvious. She didn't understand why such an inexplicable accident would happen in such a short time. And at this moment, Sakura's entire consciousness was in that wave after wave of continuous pain, and he simply fainted. Indeed, this kind of pain had completely exceeded the maximum limit that his body could bear. His body fainted to protect itself and shut off the perception of his whole body. But what he didn't know was that at this moment, a miraculous and extremely dangerous change was occurring in his body. In the place where the purple king mark had been, a purple vertical eye had mysteriously appeared. It stood upside down, looking exactly like the legendary three-eyed Erlang Shun. The only difference was that the eyes were different. This purple eye flashed with a strange light, completely replacing the original king mark. If one could see through it, they would discover that within this purple eye, countless tiny threads were fusing into the surroundings. It was like a real eye fusing into the body and connecting with the surrounding nerves to form a third eye. As the violet eye fused with Meng Hao's body, the King Mark space began to crumble, as if it couldn't withstand the pressure emanating from the violet eye. Strangely, the crumbling wasn't a true collapse. Instead, as the crumbling pieces of the space began to fuse with the violet eye, or rather, they were being devoured by the violet eye. Di Shirtian felt two types of pain. One was the sudden collapse of the King Mark space, causing boundless pain. The other was the purple eye squeezing into his forehead. It was the same as trying to forcibly stuff something that didn't belong to him into his head. The terrifying aura coming from the purple eye was the main culprit. Bullshit. Which bastard imprisoned me in this damned place? Which old bastard did this behind my back? This is too sinister. Just what kind of place is this? Master, oh master, I wonder if you've reincarnated. If you've reincarnated, you definitely have to take revenge for Shang and save me. Shang still wants to follow you in battle. Back in the day, I followed my master to roam the heavens and earth unhindered. Who didn't tremble in fear at the mention of my arrival? Back then, I was invincible in the Devilfall battlefield. It must be some old bastard who did this behind the scenes. He even took me out of my body and threw me into this damned place. Don't let me out. When I have a chance to leave, when I find my master's reincarnation, I definitely have to find him. I can't suffer this loss for nothing. How many years has it been? I wonder if anyone still remembers the mighty name of Shang. Also, how is my body now? In the purple eye, roars of venting could be heard continuously, but they could not be transmitted to the outside of the purple eye. If one looked closely, they would discover that there was a unique space in the purple eye. There was nothing in the space except for a vigorous blood dragon. The blood dragon had 5 claws under its body, and a bloody light was circulating around it. It seemed to have a strong smell of blood. The dragon's whiskers danced in the void, and its eyes were filled with hatred as it glared at the void. Its entire body exuded a ferocious aura of slaughter. If an ordinary person were to be glared at by it, their blood vessels would explode and they would die. Even cultivators wouldn't be able to withstand its fierce gaze. The roars were coming from its mouth. Those roars were filled with grievance. Rumble. The void suddenly trembled violently a few times. The originally lifeless space seemed to have an inexplicable vitality. It was like a pool of stagnant water suddenly turning into flowing water. This change made the blood dragon so excited that its body trembled. It laughed wildly and said, "Haha, you trapped me? This damned space finally has a connection to the outside. I, Shang, can finally leave." After a burst of wild laughter, the blood dragon waved its body excitedly and muttered to itself, "Let me see what the hell is trapping me." As the blood dragon spoke, it immediately extended its dragon claw and slashed at the void. A crack appeared in the void, and it stuck its head out to look outside. However, it immediately withdrew its head. Bastard, which damned bastard actually dared to seal me, the Hell Lord, inside this damned bead. However, why haven't I seen those purple eyes before? Which bastard did such an immoral thing? Good fortune. Hee hee. This is really good fortune. This is actually the body of a demon, and he has even fainted. Although I have been sealed for so many years, and my strength has dropped to the lowest point, since he has fainted, I can seize this body and use it to slowly search for my original body. The blood dragon cursed while secretly rejoicing. He had just checked and found that the body he was in was the body of a demon. Moreover, this demon body was abnormally strong. Even the demon vein was formed, and the demon palace was even more amazing. It was a heaven-quality demon palace that was extremely rare even in ancient times. If he used the possession method to steal this body, he would be able to recover faster. Without even thinking, he directly tore open the void and charged into the demon palace. As for Di Shirtan, because he had fainted, he didn't know that a blood dragon had unknowingly rushed into his demon palace. The blood dragon entered the demon palace and looked around. He clicked his tongue and laughed strangely. What a demon palace! What a heaven-quality demon palace! Back then, my master's demon palace was also heaven quality. However, I'm a weapon soul, and this body is only temporarily for me. When I find my original body, it will be better. I don't know who you are, but you're unlucky today. The blood dragon roared and circled around the demon palace. His dragon eyes stared at the demon refining cauldron in the center. He reached out his dragon claw, grabbed the lid of the cauldron, and threw it out. With a move of his body, he entered the cauldron. As soon as he entered the cauldron, he immediately saw the third-grade black lotus that was constantly rotating in the cauldron. A strange look flashed in his eyes, as if he had never seen such a demon core before. However, he naturally couldn't stop because of this. With a swing of his dragon tail, he let out a dragon roar and rushed into the black lotus. The demon race cultivated a demon core. When condensing the demon core, the essence, energy, and spirit of the entire body would be condensed in the inner core. The inner core was equivalent to the primordial spirit. The blood dragon wanted to possess the black lotus, so naturally, he was targeting it. Roar! In the blink of an eye, the blood dragon that had just entered immediately rushed out of the black lotus. The dragon roar that it let out had the same kind of fear, as if it had encountered something quite terrifying. A trace of fear appeared in its eyes. Who is it? Who is this? Too crazy. This guy is too crazy. Desire. The power of desire. He dares to smelt it into the inner core. Is this demon cultivation or curse cultivation? Bastard, lunatic, all of them are King lunatics. Could it be that after being sealed for so many years, the world has changed? They actually dare to touch the power of desire. You almost scared this old dragon to death, my little sweetheart. The blood dragon didn't even turn his head. He directly rushed out of the demon residence and went into the purple eye. He looked frightened. One of his dragon claws pressed against his chest, and he looked like he was afraid. His expression was full of frustration. It was difficult to hide the shock in his eyes. The possession was scrapped halfway. The blood dragon was unwilling to give up and wanted to think of a way to leave the purple eye. However, the strange thing was that he couldn't leave the purple eye at all, or he couldn't leave the body that the purple eye was in. It was as if there was some mysterious connection between him and the purple eye. It was as if they had become one, and it was difficult to break away. There was a feeling of being bound. He had tried all sorts of methods, but none of them worked. He couldn't help but feel frustrated. Staying in this strange space, he was dispirited. He secretly cursed the old monster who had captured and imprisoned him here. And, at this time, the purple eye between his eyebrows seemed to have completely merged with Deshirtion. All the changes gradually disappeared, and the sharp pain in his body also disappeared in an instant. The purple light outside his body quickly fell into the purple eye on his forehead, and all of it disappeared. After the last ray of purple light disappeared, the purple eye closed. Only a vertical purple line was left on his forehead. At the same time, the king pattern reappeared. It was just that the king pattern was all around the purple line, turning into a vertical purple mark. It was even more mysterious. Deshirtion let out a muffled snort and quickly opened his eyes. In an instant, he subconsciously touched his forehead. When he touched the purple mark, his eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. He glanced in front of him, and he already understood. Shirtion, how are you? Are you okay? Seeing Deshirtion sit up on the grass, Chun-Shi, who was originally full of worry, immediately returned to his original expression. He forced himself to be calm and asked, but his eyes evaded, as if he wanted to hide all his previous emotions. She hesitated, but still moved forward and stretched out her snow-white hand, wanting to pull him up from the ground. But Deshirtion shook his head and waved his hand, saying, "No need. Shi'er, help me guard for the time being. I want to investigate what happened to my body just now." He had not forgotten the scene of the purple eye is suddenly rushing into his body. When he touched the purple mark on his forehead, he clearly felt that there was another eye in the purple mark. He felt that as long as he wanted to, he could open this eye at any time, but he had a feeling that doing so would be extremely dangerous. Chun-Shi looked at him deeply, nodded, and stood to the side, saying, "Be careful." After saying that, he really stood to the side to guard him. He sat down cross-legged. His consciousness entered his body, directly entering the purple mark. As soon as he entered, he could clearly see that mysterious purple eye. That purple eye flickered with a mysterious charm. My king rune space, my innate divine ability, the souls I absorbed, where are they? Have they really been completely destroyed? Di-Shirtian's heart turned cold. Here, all he could see was a purple eye. The original king rune space, the original innate divine ability, seemed to have completely disappeared with the collapse of the king rune space. This fact was hard for him to accept. All this time, his innate divine ability had been a trump card at the bottom of his chest. He also knew that his innate divine ability still had the potential to become even more powerful and could still evolve. But at this moment, it had completely collapsed, completely destroyed by this unknown purple eye. Even though his heart was tough, he still felt a deep sense of loss and disbelief. Violet eye, what exactly is this violet eye? As soon as it entered, it immediately destroyed my king rune space and took away my innate divine ability. Could it be that this violet eye is even more mysterious than my innate divine ability? Or is it replacing my king rune space, my innate divine ability? However, his disappointment only lasted for an instant. He saw even further and saw how mysterious and powerful the violet eye was. Its power was definitely above his own king pattern space. Calming himself, he entered the purple eye. In a split second, the purple mark on his forehead suddenly opened, and the purple eye that was originally closed opened. The purple eye that was upside down looked abnormally demonic. When he looked at it, he felt a soul-stirring power. It was as if his divine soul was about to fly out of his body and directly into the purple eye. After a long time, that strange purple eye mysteriously closed just like when it opened, and once again turned into a purple mark. Sakura also opened his eyes, and a strange light flashed through his eyes, revealing traces of astonishment, as if there was also a kind of inconceivable surprise. So that's how it is. I didn't expect to profit from a disaster. Although I lost the king rune space, I was compensated with this mysterious purple eye. With it, I finally have a divine ability that I can rely on. Although I can't use it often, it can be used as a life-saving divine ability. Taking a deep breath, he touched the purple mark on his forehead. He didn't know whether he should be happy or disappointed, but he was even more curious about this purple eye. He didn't know just what kind of expert could refine such a divine eye. Its power was so strong that it could be called heaven-defying. It even seemed to be able to grow with him. It was a priceless treasure that he had obtained by accident. The instant the purple eye fused with his body, it had completely fused with him. It was as if it had been there since birth. What he was curious about was how he had obtained such an eye. However, there seems to be another mysterious place in the purple eye, as if it's imprisoning something. Sakura muttered a few words to himself and didn't say anything more. He closed his eyes again and put his mind into the purple eye. Following a trace of strange feeling, he quickly entered the mysterious place that he had sensed. Swish! In almost an instant, his consciousness shook and he appeared in a strange space. What made Sakura shocked was that he suddenly saw two huge eyes that were even bigger than a lantern. They were bright and dazzling, and it was terrifying. "Who are you?" Di-Shirtian took a deep breath and immediately retreated. He felt that he could completely control this space and easily teleport to a place far away. When he fixed his eyes in front of him, he asked with supreme power, "You're the owner of this body? You're the lunatic who dared to fuse the power of desire into his Naiden." While retreating, Sakura saw the creature in front of him clearly, but he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, as if he saw something inconceivable. A blood dragon, A blood-colored divine dragon that was thousands of feet long suddenly appeared in front of him. It really gave him a rather shocking feeling. And in that instant, the blood dragon also spat out a sentence that was like thunder, with a trace of bad luck in its tone. However, it was also a little excited. Its two giant dragon eyes stared at Tion and sized him up as if it wanted to see if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. When it discovered that Tion had cultivated the power of desire in the eyes of the blood dragon, he was a complete lunatic. He was the biggest lunatic in the world. Who are you? Why are there dragons and purple eyes? Tion frowned slightly and asked again in shock. While the blood dragon was sizing him up, he was also sizing it up. If you want to know who I am, you better stand still and listen carefully. The blood dragon general raised his head and said proudly, I'm the one and only soul artifact in the world, the one and only, the one who has been invincible since ancient times, the one who has scared thousands of creatures, Shang. My body is the strongest treasure in the world. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 349. Underworld Scripture. The blood dragon raised its head and proudly spat out those 2 words. It was as if those 2 words contained a supreme power that could deter the entire universe. His words were filled with pride, as if he was proud of this and felt boundless glory. Underworld Scripture? Sakura's eyes almost popped out, and his heart almost jumped out of his chest on the spot. He looked at the blood dragon with an inconceivable expression. His expression was horrified to the extreme, and he couldn't even say a word as he pointed at the blood dragon. The horror in his heart was like a boundless tsunami, drowning all his reason, and his face showed a dazed expression that had never been seen before. You're saying that you're the soul of the Underworld Emperor's treasure, the Underworld Scripture? How is this possible? Could my Violet, I be the Underworld Scripture? No. Sakura stared blankly at the blood dragon, unable to completely recover from the shock. When he heard that the blood dragon in front of him was the soul of the Underworld Emperor's most precious treasure, the Underworld Book, he instinctively thought that the purple he just obtained was the legendary Underworld Book. However, before the blood dragon could refute, he denied it first. According to the records left behind by ZU, the Underworld Scripture itself was a book-like treasure. It couldn't be this violet eye. Don't compare this damned violet eye to my original body. It was that damned old fart who actually pulled me out of the Underworld Scripture and imprisoned me in this damn violet eye. I don't know where this violet eye came from, but it even cut off my connection with the Underworld Scripture. Don't let me go out. I'll go back to my original body. I'll definitely get my revenge. Let's see which damned old fart captured me. I'll definitely capture him inside the Underworld Scripture and test the power of my Underworld Scripture's 18 layers. The moment the violet eye and the Underworld Scripture were mentioned, the dragon immediately went crazy. Its whiskers crazily danced in the surroundings as it cursed. It was as if it wanted to vent the resentment that had accumulated in its body for countless years in front of Tion. Its roar caused the surrounding space to tremble. The soul of the Underworld Scripture? If this is true, then who could bring it out from the Underworld Book and imprison it here? Just what kind of divine ability would that be? Tion took a few deep breaths and looked at the blood dragon that was still roaring and venting its anger. He couldn't help but think of an ancient scroll that recorded many things in ancient times. There was a description of the Book of the Underworld inside. The Book of Underworld was a supreme treasure that the Emperor of the Underworld carried around with him. It could capture the aura of living beings and absorb it into the Book of Underworld using the Heavenly Underworld brush. The Book of Underworld could detect the origin of living beings and turn them into talismans. The Book of Underworld contained 18 levels of Underworld prison, each of which could change life and death. Once one entered the Underworld prison, one's life and death would no longer be in his control. The Emperor of the Dead relied on it to dominate the heavens and realms, and there were few who could match him. Even Khanate numinous treasures were no match for it. Just from this short description, one could imagine how earth-shattering the reputation of the Book of Underworld was in ancient times. It was a peerless weapon that could intimidate all living beings and intimidate all worlds. Back then, when Di Shurtion saw it, he only treated it as a form of entertainment, a form of interest. While cultivating, he could also recuperate his mind. Who would have thought that he would actually see the legendary soul of the Book of Underworld with his own eyes? And it was right in front of him. This kind of reversal was truly unbelievable. If one's mental state was slightly weaker, they might have fainted on the spot. Sakura had a feeling of dizziness. No matter what, he couldn't imagine that his purple eye would imprison a guy with such a big background who could scare an elephant to death. Kid, what's your name? What time is it outside? I was originally imprisoned in this damned place. It seems like I won't be able to get out for a while. Tell me more about the outside world. After a long time, the blood dragon seemed to have vented most of the resentment in its heart. It glared at Di Shurtion and shouted, exuding a ferocious aura. Di Shurtion frowned slightly. His mind, which had been shocked, had calmed down during this period of time. When he heard the blood dragon's question, his body naturally exuded a domineering emperor's aura. He was not angry, but he had cultivated the emperor shocking the world, which had cultivated the temperament of an emperor. In addition, he had an arrogant temperament. After he came back to his senses and accepted the facts in front of him, he didn't lose his mind like before. He looked calmly at the blood dragon, thoughts running quickly in his mind. Coupled with the blood dragon's words just now, it was imprisoned here, which meant that it didn't have the terrifying strength it had in ancient times. In this void, he had a feeling that he could control it at will, so he was no longer afraid. This king is Di Shurtion, the current master of the 10,000 Demon Valley in the southern wilderness. Now, who knows how many tens of thousands of years have passed since ancient times? On the continent, the demon race has declined, and the human race has occupied the leading role of the world. Di Shurtion's eyes flashed. The blood dragon in front of him was clearly an old monster who had lived for who knew how long. In front of it, there's no need to lie. On the contrary, perhaps there would be unexpected benefits to befriending it. So many years have passed. I wonder if Master has been reborn. The blood dragon listened quietly and thought to itself, I'm now imprisoned in this damned place, and it's extremely difficult to get out. Also, I don't know which old bastard fused me with this purple eye. I can't leave the purple eye alone. It seems that unless I find my original body, the Abyssal Book, and use the power of the book to return to my origin, otherwise, it will be difficult to leave this prison. Now that the purple eye has fused with this madman, if he doesn't release the prison, when he completely understands the purple eye, he might be ruthless to me. No, I have to think of a way. It was the soul of the Abyssal Book, and its life experience was extremely rich. Although it kept cursing the purple eye, it knew very well that this purple eye was definitely not a simple thing. Otherwise, it would not have been able to imprison it for so many years. Moreover, it could fuse with living creatures on its own. Now, it did not seem to be very strong. Of course, it was not strong, but only relative to its thoughts. However, to Di Shurtion, it was undoubtedly an incomparably mysterious existence that could be relied on as a life-saving divine ability. The strange thing was that the blood dragon actually did not know what kind of divine ability the purple eye had. It had been imprisoned in this strange space for countless years, from ancient times until now. How should I address you, Senior? After Di Shurtion finished speaking, he asked in a deep voice. With the blood dragon's identity, it was not too much to call him Senior. The blood dragon's murderous aura suddenly converged. It looked at Di Shurtion and said, in ancient times, some people called me Ming, and some people call me, if you want to call me that, you can call me Ming. Your name is Di Shurtion, right? You just heard that I was plotted against and imprisoned here. I want to make a deal with you. You will definitely be rewarded. Thinking of the fact that it was imprisoned in the purple eye and the erosion of the power of desire in the demon residence, the blood dragon did not treat Di Shurtion as an ordinary demon. In its opinion, those who took the initiative to touch the 7 emotions and 6 desires were all King lunatics. This kind of lunatic was not to be trifled with. He had a vague feeling that the matter of him being imprisoned might have been done by an old cursemancer. These guys played all kinds of curses too strangely. Even the cursemancer did not dare to touch the power of desire, but Tion actually absorbed it into his body and used it to cultivate. If this was not a lunatic, what was? A deal. Tion heard and immediately asked, "What kind of deal?" Ming stretched out its dragon claws and stroked its dragon whiskers. Its 2 large dragon eyes carefully sized up Tion. After a while, it said, "I am the soul of the Emperor of the Dead's most precious treasure, the Book of Hell. I have followed the Emperor of the Dead for countless years and have grown up with my master. I have seen countless secrets, seen countless treasures, and know a lot of powerful secret techniques. You said that now that the demon race has declined, many things must have been lost. I can assist you to become a powerhouse, teach you secret techniques, and help you to answer any questions you have in cultivation. But the condition is that when you have the ability, you must release me from this damned space and help me find the whereabouts of the Book of Hell. What do you think of this deal?" Ming looked up at Tion expectantly. This deal could be said to be the best deal for him. This was also the majority of the bargaining chip he had offered. This, Tion's eyes lit up unnaturally. The deal mentioned by Ming was completely made for him. Everything mentioned in the deal was unimaginably tempting to him. Who was Ming? It was the most precious treasure of the Emperor of the Dead. It had followed the Emperor of the Dead for countless years and had done many great things together. It knew everything that the Emperor of the Dead had encountered, and it definitely knew a lot of the cultivation methods and abigina that the Emperor of the Dead knew. Most importantly, it could be said that it was the best teacher in the world with its knowledge and experience. All along, Tion had cultivated to the first transformation of the demon pill realm without any hindrance. However, during his cultivation, he also had many questions that he could not understand. These questions piled up in his heart, but he did not know who to ask for the answers. If he could have Ming by his side at all times, he would be able to ask for advice. Then, many questions would be answered. "All right, I agree. No matter how I look at it, I'm the one who is taking advantage of you. As long as I have the ability, I will definitely help you find the whereabouts of the Book of the Dead. However, as for letting you out, to be honest, although this purple eye is now on me, I have only just begun to control the power of the purple eye. Moreover, I can faintly feel that in order to let you out and break the seal, I need to raise my own cultivation to a certain level. Otherwise, I can't do anything." Tion nodded his head in agreement without hesitation. After all, no matter how one looked at it, he was the one who was taking advantage of the situation. There were a few important factors in cultivation: one's aptitude, luck, treasured land, resources, cultivation methods, and answers. He did not lack the first few factors, but he lacked the last one who could answer his questions. If he could really get the help of Ming, he would not lack any of the factors to become a powerful expert. As long as he worked hard in the coming days, becoming a powerful expert would no longer be a dream. Good, good, good. When Ming heard Tion's agreement, he was immediately overjoyed. He kept cheering, and his huge dragon body wantonly danced in the space. It seemed that as long as he agreed, everything would be fine. Sakura's mind turned, and he left the void without any warning. He also left the purple eye, and his mind returned to his body. He let out a long breath and opened his eyes. Strange light flickered in his eyes, and he was secretly delighted. This is an unprecedented harvest. With Ming here, it's enough for my strength to increase exponentially. Even if I give you a few spiritual treasures, I won't be able to exchange it. As the saying went, having an old man at home is like having a treasure. With Ming by his side, her lifetime of experience was an extremely precious treasure, and any guidance she provided might benefit all living beings. When he thought about the successive, unexpected events and gains he'd obtained in this short period of time, he suddenly felt as if he was dreaming. "Oh, Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box. What kind of treasure are you? Who made you? Why are so many treasures popping out from your body?" First, it was the ancient scroll that recorded the 7 sins divine melody. Now it gave me this mysterious purple eye. Could it be someone's prank? Or is it the inheritance of that peerless cultivator? Sakura's heart was filled with emotions. The deeper he went, the more mysterious he felt the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box was. It wasn't wrong to say that it was strange. Every item that appeared from the box was extremely extraordinary. This purple eye was even more terrifying. Not only was it marvelous and had unimaginable power, it even imprisoned an unimaginable existence like dark. Step by step, the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box seemed to be carrying out some unknown inheritance. After pondering for a moment, he did not have any clues. He did not fuss too much about it. He believed that the secret of the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box would be revealed one day. However, he had to admit that since he obtained this treasure box, he seemed to have walked on a different path. He carefully kept the treasure box again. At the same time, the mysterious ancient scroll at the side landed in his hand. This time, besides the purple eye, this ancient scroll had appeared as well. Everything that had happened in this short period of time was too dangerous. Up until now, he had not seen what was inside the ancient scroll with his own eyes. "Shi-er, thank you for protecting me." He picked up the ancient scroll and turned to look at Chun-Shi, who had a strange expression on his face, and said with a faint smile, "I didn't do anything. There's no need to thank me." Chun-Shi shook his head and turned to return to the first level. However, after taking 2 steps, he paused and said, "Be more careful when you go into seclusion next time." After speaking, he didn't stay any longer. He turned and left, returning to the first level. He didn't ask anything about what Tion had done earlier. It was as though he didn't see anything. However, Tion could hear a trace of concern in his words. He couldn't help but feel a surge of warmth in his heart. He quietly watched as Chun-Shi left. After a long time, he sat down and slowly opened the ancient scroll. A strange black light flickered on the ancient scroll. This light was similarly evil. Gradually, mysterious words appeared in the ancient scroll. These words seemed to be alive. Each of them were like clouds and mist, constantly changing their forms. The black light they emitted was extremely strange. It was as though there were many evil eyes staring at him. This feeling was extremely strange. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. There were only 10 of these strange words. Each of them emitted a different aura. However, what was behind them wasn't these words. It was a picture. It was a very strange picture. The picture wasn't of mountains and rivers, nor was it of birds and beasts. Instead, it was a strange palace that was completely black. On the palace, there were densely packed seal scripts that were similar to the 10 characters on the ancient scroll. They were distributed in various positions and looked very evil. Around the palace, mysterious people wearing black robes and whose faces could not be seen clearly surrounded the palace. Their expressions were very respectful. They looked at the seal scripts on the palace with a fanatical expression. "What is this?" Tion's eyes revealed a trace of doubt and seriousness. He faintly felt that the things recorded in the ancient scroll were definitely not as simple as they seemed. He looked at the words, but he didn't recognize them at all. Speaking of which, he felt that these 10 seal words didn't seem like words at all. Instead, they seemed to be some kind of mysterious talisman edict. After thinking for a while, he didn't recklessly touch the ancient scroll again. After pondering for a while, he closed his eyes and used his mind to bring the ancient scroll into the purple eye. "Ming, you're experienced and knowledgeable. Can you see what these words are?" Tion couldn't figure out what these words were. Suddenly, he remembered that there was an ancient antique in his body. It is time to test it. He used his mind to enter the purple eye again and came to the void where Ming was. He opened the ancient scroll and asked, "Damn it, cursed seal. Isn't this the cursed seal condensed from the curse origin of those strange cursementers? Why do you have it? Unlucky, really unlucky." When Ming saw the seal words on the ancient scroll, his expression changed drastically. He looked as if he had stepped on feces and shouted in shock. This is a cursed seal? Why did it appear from the treasure box with the purple eye? When D. Chertion heard the surprising answer, he couldn't help but ask as if he didn't mean it. However, the expression in Dark's eyes kept changing. After a moment of silence, he suddenly cursed. F***CKU. As expected, it's you guys who like to hide in the dark. How dare you attack your ancestor, Dark? Just you wait. Just you wait. Just you wait. When I get out of here, I'll definitely drag you guys into the 18 layers of hell and let you have a taste of what I'm capable of. A series of curses came out like the water of the Yangtze River. The crazy and wanton roars were so loud that anyone could hear the anger in them. D. Chertion couldn't help shaking his head. His eyes fell on the ancient scroll. Cursed seal. Is this the cursed seal left by the strangest cursemancer? What is its meaning? Also, what does this picture represent? D. Chertion was immersed in his thoughts. He didn't care about Ming, who was venting his anger. However, based on Ming's words, he was certain that the records in this ancient scroll were definitely related to the strangest cursemancer. However, he wasn't sure what the curse seal was about. He could only ask after Ming returned to normal. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 350. That group of old monsters, I will not let them off so easily. I, Dark, have dominated the world for so many years. I have even captured peerless experts in the Nether prison. No matter what, I will not let this go. Dark cursed loudly for a long time before it finally stopped. However, its cursing continued for an entire 2 hours without stopping. From this, one could see how furious it was. D. Chertion, as long as you can get the news of the Book of Underworld as soon as possible, I, Dark, will do my best to assist you. Those old monsters are too much of a bully. I will not let them off. Dark looked at D. Chertion and immediately shouted anxiously. He could not wait for even a moment to return to the Book of Underworld. It seemed that he was completely provoked. Don't worry. Although I, D. Chertion, am not a Heaven's Pride or an expert, I am a man of my word. Since I have promised to help you find the Book of Underworld, I will pay attention to any news. D. Chertion nodded solemnly and promised. Good. As long as you keep your promise, I, Dark, will do my best to assist you. Dark nodded fiercely. His eyes fell on the ancient scroll with a trace of fear and disgust. He said, You must be here for this ancient scroll. I will not ask you to help me look for the Book of Underworld for nothing. This ancient scroll must have been made by that group of cursemancers. You should have seen the 10 seals on it. These seals are actually the inheritance of curse techniques between cursemancers. They are also the source of the power of curse techniques. Every curse seal contains a kind of inheritance imprint of a curse technique. As long as you use your demon sense to absorb the curse seal, you can naturally obtain the curse technique inside. As he spoke, his voice paused, and he raised his eyes to glance at Sakura. There was a strange look in his eyes. He continued, Speaking of which, if you want to cultivate this curse technique, it will be twice the result with half the effort. I really don't know if I should say that you are brave or crazy. In my master's time, not many people dared to touch the power of desires like the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Those who dared to absorb it all became crazy and went crazy. That thing contained the various desires of countless living beings gathered together over countless years. It was more terrifying than anything else. Not only did you touch it, but you also absorbed the power of desire. Nothing happened to you. Anomaly. I think you're a freak. You knew I was absorbing the power of desire? D. Chertion frowned slightly. He was slightly shocked by Nether's ability to actually comprehend the source of his strength in such a short period of time. However, he didn't know that the reason why Ming knew about it was because Ming wanted to possess his body right from the start. If not for the fact that Ming didn't dare to touch him due to the power of desire, Ming would have used his body to search for the Book of the Underworld. How could she not know that he was absorbing the power of desire? I don't know how many strange things I've seen, but I've never seen someone like you. Not only can you absorb the power of desire, but you can also use it to strengthen yourself. Speaking of which, when I saw you, I was almost scared to death." As he spoke, a trace of deep interest suddenly appeared in Ming's eyes, and he said excitedly, "I wonder how strong you'll be if I'm able to nurture you to maturity." Haha. Interesting. This is really interesting. Let's do it this way. I'll definitely help you become a peerless expert. In that way, the world will definitely be very lively. Dark had an excited look on his face. He was secretly excited by his sudden idea. It was as if nurturing a peerless powerhouse was something very interesting to him. Tion. Ming's gaze became solemn as he looked at Chun Shi and said, "If I'm not mistaken, this ancient scroll was definitely created by those cursemasters. There are 10 seals on it, and they are the inheritances of the 10 curse techniques. The source of the curse techniques is the 7 emotions and 6 desires that are present everywhere in the world. Even though those fellows who hide in the shadows are very detestable, I have to say that the curse techniques are definitely the strangest energy in the world. They can't directly utilize the power of desire, but they can use the seals to convert the power of desire into curse techniques. It's very evil, but it's very powerful. It's like a parasite. You're even crazier than those cursemasters, and you can directly absorb the power of desire to cultivate the curse techniques. It's more suitable for you than them. Not only will you achieve twice the result with half the effort, but the might of the curse techniques will multiply. Learning the curse techniques will greatly increase your strength. You'll be invincible in the same realm. Even those monster kings will have to be wary of you. You can't miss this opportunity." Tion listened attentively. He was also deep in thought as he pondered. He had to admit that Ming was very knowledgeable. Indeed, according to the records, the cursemasters were born on the basis of studying the power of desire. After discovering that they couldn't directly absorb the power of desire, they took a shortcut and created another cultivation system. They merged the power of desire into seals, and then used the seals to transform it into a unique curse technique. It could be said that this was a side branch of cultivating the power of desire. Its foundation was still the power of desire. Tion was more direct than the cursemasters. He directly absorbed the power of desire and merged it with the power of heaven and earth to form the Huangji True Force. In the Huangji True Force, he naturally retained the characteristics of the power of desire. There was absolutely no problem for him to cultivate the curse techniques. Instead, he was like a fish in water. As for the picture on the scroll, I remember that Ming seemed to be lost in thought as she said, "During the ancient times, when the cursemasters were at their peak, they gathered the energy of all the cursemasters and utilized countless precious materials to gather all sorts of treasures of the heavens and the earth. They even gathered an uncountable amount of stellar crystals from the world of stars. They spent over 3,000 years to craft the divine Dark Palace. All the cursemasters in the world were gathered within the palace. So long as anyone who didn't cultivate the cursemaster arts approached the palace, they would immediately be enveloped by the myriad of cursemasters. Even the most formidable expert wouldn't be able to escape unscathed from the palace. It's very evil. If I'm not mistaken, the picture on the scroll should be that Dark Palace. At the end, even a great weapon from the ancient times like Ming showed a hint of fear. Thank you for your advice. I'll go and try the curse technique inheritance now." Tion listened quietly, thanked Ming, and put away the ancient scroll. His figure flashed, and he quickly left this strange space. He turned his attention back to himself and opened his eyes to look at the ancient scroll in his hand. He felt that the ancient scroll was very heavy. He really didn't expect this ancient scroll to be related to the curse technique inheritance. The mystery that shrouded the cursemasters all this time made him even more curious. Now that the curse techniques no longer existed, just the remaining power was enough to make most cultivators tremble in fear when they heard the curse techniques. Moreover, there might be a complete curse technique inheritance in front of him now. He couldn't help but feel a hint of anticipation. Whoosh! He opened the ancient scroll, and looked at the 10 curse techniques with constantly changing auras on it. He muttered, "Let me see what's so magical about the curse techniques. If I can master it, it'll definitely be a powerful trump card." He muttered to himself. With a determined gaze, he focused his mind and immediately followed the method Ming mentioned earlier. He carefully probed one of the curse techniques with his demon consciousness. Woo! However, as soon as the demon consciousness touched the curse technique inheritance, the curse technique inheritance immediately reacted. It suddenly turned into a black light and rushed into his body at an incredible speed. At the same time, a strange power that was very similar to the power of desire was suddenly emitted from the curse technique inheritance. It drilled into every inch of his flesh in all directions. This strange power seemed to want to integrate into his flesh. It wanted to transform his body into something it wanted to transform into. But the strange thing was that although this power passed through his flesh, it didn't change his flesh at all. Deshirtian's demon body was like a dry sponge, swallowing all this power without any scruples. It was like a bottomless pit. There was no reaction, but the curse technique inheritance was like a fish in water. It excitedly passed through his body and quickly rushed into the demon palace. It immediately entered the demon refining cauldron. When it saw the third grade black lotus in the cauldron, it was as if it had seen its mother. It happily jumped a few times, then turned into a black light and rushed into the black lotus. In an instant, a strange seal strangely appeared on the surface of the black lotus. It was imprinted on the black lotus. It was so natural that not a single flaw could be found. It was as if it was born on the black lotus. As the black lotus rotated, it absorbed the Emperor True Force into the curse technique inheritance. When the curse technique inheritance absorbed the True Force, it was as if it had a life of its own. At the same time, a strange message appeared in his mind without any warning. Deshirtian had no choice but to focus all his attention on absorbing this information. After a long while, Sakura's mouth drew a faint arc as he muttered to himself, "So strange, such a mystical curse technique. No wonder the curse technique would be called a curse by others, an evil technique. However, to me, this curse technique is the most suitable for me. After obtaining you, I will give the immortal cultivation world a painful lesson in this immortal demon competition." He was only slightly happy for a while. Without any hesitation, he absorbed the remaining 9 curse techniques inheritance into his body. These curse techniques inheritance were the same as the previous one. Once they entered his body, they were immediately imprinted on the black lotus, shining with a strange light. Even the speed of the power of desire rushing into his body was a bit faster. Deshirtian could clearly feel that these curse techniques inheritance had completely integrated with his Niden, the third grade black lotus. They were indistinguishable from each other. It was as if they had grown together with the black lotus. It was very strange. However, he was very clear that this curse technique inheritance was the foundation of curse techniques. A curse technique inheritance represented a curse technique. After obtaining the curse technique inheritance, he understood how the curse technique inheritance was passed down. It turned out that when accepting a disciple, they would use the great curse technique to gather the power of desire of the heavens and earth, condensing it into a curse seal. Then, they would plant the curse seal in the disciple's body. The disciple would rely on the curse seal to absorb the power of desire and convert it into curse power. The more curse seals there were, the stronger the curse power and the stronger the strength. The strongest curse technique master had condensed countless strange and mysterious curse seals in their body. They could rely on the curse technique inheritance to place their primordial spirit. In times of danger, as long as one curse technique inheritance escaped, they could rely on it to be reborn. The strangeness of it could be seen at a glance. However, Deshirtian was different from the curse technique inheritance at this time. He didn't need to rely on the curse technique inheritance at all. Once the power of desire absorbed by the curse technique inheritance entered the black lotus, it would immediately be transformed into the Royal True Force. Using the Royal True Force to activate the curse technique inheritance was not only without any hindrance, but it was also more convenient. After all, the Book of Shocking the World was not a joke. It was a real book. After absorbing the 10 curse techniques inheritance, Di Shirtion didn't leave immediately. It had only been less than 4 years. There was still enough time for him to familiarize himself with the mysteries of the curse technique inheritance. For a time, in the tower, he resumed his usual cultivation. Every day, he practiced his saber technique, absorbed the spirit chi of heaven and earth, and the boundless power of desire. Then he familiarized himself with the curse technique inheritance in his body. Every day, his schedule was full and incomparably fulfilling. The time that was originally lacking at this moment was sufficient. Time passed quietly around him in the blink of an eye. Even in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, it could only slow down the speed of time, but it couldn't reverse the flow of time. No matter how slow it would still pass. It was less than 2 months outside, but in the pagoda, Di Shirtion had already spent 5 or 6 years. Pata, on the 9 steps, a steady sound of footsteps came from above. Di Shirtion, dressed in a black robe, walked down naturally. He didn't care about the pressure from the stairs at all. The aura of supremacy on his body became more obvious. Obviously, during this period of time, he had a lot of gains. Cheer, it's time. Come out with me. Standing in the courtyard, looking at the position of the study, there was a trace of gentleness in his words. Squeak! The door was pushed open, and Chen Shi, who was dressed in plain clothes, walked out of the room. A burst of strange fragrance of flowers entered the nose, making people feel relaxed and happy. Are you going to leave here and go to the 5 Elements mountain range? Chen Shi didn't leave immediately. Instead, she looked at him calmly and asked a question. When she asked, her heart couldn't help but tremble. She was secretly surprised. Why do I care about him more and more recently? Do I really like him? For a moment, she felt inexplicably irritated. Yes. Di Shirtion nodded and said without hesitation, now that the Demon Clan and the Immortal Cultivation World are in a stalemate in the 5 Elements mountain range, the Immortal Demon competition should be a temporary way to ease the tension. But if there is no accident, there must be the idea of the various sects in the Immortal Cultivation World wanting to test the strength of the Demon Clan. If we don't show our strong side in the competition, I'm afraid there will be accidents. After all, no matter how strong the 8 Demon Kings are, they can't withstand the siege of a large number of cultivators. Only by showing our strongest side and making the Immortal Cultivation World afraid can the rest of the Demon Clan smoothly withdraw from the mountain range and win some time for the Demon Clan. Conciliation was useless here. The weaker the knight, the more they would be bullied. They had to show their strength without hiding. They had to be strong enough that the Immortal Cultivation World didn't dare to act rashly. They had to be strong enough to make the major sects afraid. They had to let the Immortal Cultivation World know that although the Demon Clan had declined, they were not to be bullied and slaughtered at will. They also had the ability to destroy any sect. That way, they would be afraid, have scruples, and not dare to act rashly. If he won time, Di Shirtion was confident that he could build a strength that no force dared to underestimate in a short time. This time, he had to win the Immortal Demon competition to buy time for the Demon Clan and the rise of the Myriad Demon Valley. Therefore, this time, he had decided that he must show his strength in the competition that was enough to deter most cultivators. Not only for the Demon Clan, but also for himself. Then you have to be careful. Don't forget, there is still your sister Xiaobai here. If something happens to you, Xiaobai will really have no one to rely on. Chen Shi looked at him deeply and didn't say anything to stop him. Okay. Di Shirtion heard the concern in his words, and a trace of warmth flashed through his heart. He smiled faintly and nodded. Together, they left the pagoda and returned to the Myriad Demon Valley. After returning to the valley, Di Shirtion didn't stay idle. He erected a huge 9-story pagoda in the valley. The pagoda was flowing with light. The pagoda was called the Inch-in Pagoda. An inch of time was an inch of gold. An inch of gold couldn't buy an inch of time. This inch in pagoda was refined by him in the pagoda with various materials. The quality of the pagoda wasn't very high. It had just entered the magic treasure grade. However, in the pagoda, Di Shirtian poured the power of the exquisite pagoda into the pagoda of time in the form of the gate of time, so that the pagoda of time could temporarily connect with the exquisite pagoda. The power of the exquisite pagoda to reverse time and space was temporarily applied in the pagoda of time. It could only last for 12 hours a day. That was 12 hours. After that, he had to wait until the next day to continue. This was also another use of the exquisite pagoda. It was not convenient for him to leave the exquisite pagoda in the myriad demon valley for the time being. He could only refine such a temporary substitute first. This way, when placed in the valley, the demons in the valley could enter the pagoda to cultivate. Among them, the first level could be entered at will, and the time inside was 1 to 10. However, entering the second level required merit points. It required 10 merit points per day, and the time inside was 1 to 50. The appearance of this pagoda of time was also a way for Di Shirtian to circulate merit points in the valley. It just so happened that merit points were integrated into the lives of all the demons in the valley. When it was completely implemented in the future, it would be a matter of course. No matter what it was, circulation had the value of existence. Without something to circulate it, it could not be said to be implemented. This was the significance of the pagoda of time's appearance. After temporarily arranging the affairs in the valley, Di Shirtian did not care about the rest and handed it over to Chun Shi and Chihua to take care of. He did not stay any longer. Driving the floating cloud boat, he rushed towards the Five Elements mountain range. It was worth mentioning that after hearing about it, Medusa also followed along. Moreover, her cultivation had also inconceivably stepped into the first transformation of the Yaodan. The speed of her progress showed that her talent was very strong. It was absolutely different from other ordinary demons. With regard to Medusa wanting to tag along, Sakura didn't stop her. Medusa's strength wasn't weak, and her innate divine ability was incomparably strange. That pair of eyes that could easily turn a person into a stone statue was absolutely terrifying. She was a powerful helper. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 351. The Black Ape King, the Red-Crowned Crane King, and the others had planned to follow, but Di Shirtian did not agree. He only asked them to stay in the valley and cultivate in peace, striving to improve themselves. Clouds gathered and dispersed, changing their forms with the wind. Some were like birds, some were like beasts, and some were like the peaks of mountains. The wind was formless, and the clouds were formless. When the wind moved, the clouds moved. When the wind gathered, the clouds would be swept away. Between the clouds, there was a unique charm to them. High up in the sky, between the clouds, a boat was shuttling through the sea of clouds. It was not too fast, only moving forward at an ordinary speed. However, it was still much faster than ordinary imperial wind and imperial swords. In the boat, Di Shirtian and Medusa sat opposite each other. On the table were several plates of spiritual fruits. There were 1,000-year-old vermilion fruits and 100-year-old spiritual peaches. They were all placed in front of them generously. Beside them were several wine gourds. These gourds were filled with spiritual wine. This time, the wine was not the monkey wine brewed by Yuan Tian and his people, nor was it the 100 Flowers immortal wine brewed by Chun Shi from the 100 Flowers Valley. Instead, he had relied on the magic of the wine god's gourd to brew the mysterious azure ice wine according to the method recorded in the wine recipe, using a spiritual herb called the ice fire fruit that grew in hot or cold places. Together with wine grass and hundreds of spiritual herbs, he had brewed the mysterious azure ice wine. This was the first spiritual wine recorded in the wine god's heavenly mirror. It had extraordinary benefits for the refinement of the physical body. He had already obtained the ice fire fruit on Smoky Wave Island and planted it in the Shinnong's paradise map. It had already multiplied quite a bit, so he had also collected some fruits. According to the wine recipe, with the help of the god of wine gourd, the most miraculous winemaking treasure, he had already brewed it. Try this mysterious azure ice wine. The wine contains the two polar opposite powers of ice and fire. It has a very good effect for the refinement of our demon bodies. Chertion smiled faintly and opened the gourd. A strange wine fragrance wafted out of the gourd. Within this wine fragrance, there was an icy and scorching aura. The two polar opposite powers coexisted strangely in the wine. It looked a little unbelievable. He poured the wine into the cup. The color of the wine was like jade, crystal clear, like amber. On the surface, it did not seem strange at all. Only by drinking it could one understand the beauty of this spiritual wine. Yes, I've heard that your myriad Demon Valley is good at brewing spiritual wine, but the most famous one is the monkey wine. I didn't expect you to be a master of wine as well. Medusa was not an ordinary person. She could tell from the fragrance of the wine that the spirit wine in this cup was a rare and wonderful product. It was a treasure that ordinary cultivators would not be able to taste. Glancing at Chertion, she reached out her hand, picked up the wine cup, brought it to her lips, and elegantly poured the wine into her mouth. As soon as she swallowed, an icy cold aura suddenly emerged from her body, as if it was about to freeze the air. Then, in an instant, the cold aura retreated, and her body emitted a scorching aura. These two polar opposite auras alternated back and forth 9 times before gradually disappearing. Medusa closed her eyes and focused on herself. She silently absorbed the power contained in the wine, absorbing the benefits from it. Chertion saw this and smiled faintly. He directly picked up the gourd and poured it into his mouth, allowing the power of ice and fire to pass through his flesh and blood and refine it. He had already brewed this wine in the secret realm. He did not know how much he had drunk. The power in this wine could no longer have much effect on his demon body. Sakura, I didn't expect you to have such good luck with women. Earlier on, I've already discovered that the flower demon in the pagoda, her original body seems to be rather extraordinary. Her appearance is even more extraordinary, and few people can compare to her. She has condensed the fortune of heaven and earth and has great affection for you. This one is not ordinary either. I didn't expect you to meet a demon like Medusa. I really have to admire you. Suddenly, a strange voice sounded in his mind without warning. Chertion could not help but frown slightly. How did you come out from the purple eye? Chertion instantly realized that the voice came from the purple eye. Who else could speak in the purple eye other than Dark? What's so strange about that? Even though I'm trapped in this ghostly eye, it's not like I don't know anything. I can still know what's going on outside. It's not difficult for me to talk to you, but only you can hear me. Underworld indeed couldn't be judged by common sense. It was extremely strange. As the soul of a great killing weapon, it had many strange abilities that were unknown to others. The previous surprise was also the first time Sakura had experienced such a thing. After thinking about it again, it wasn't strange anymore. Don't talk nonsense. I don't have that kind of thoughts about Medusa. Chertion shook his head and glanced at Medusa, who was absorbing the power in the wine with her eyes closed. He then looked at the void outside the ship. The floating cloud ship shuttled through the sea of clouds and left them behind. He poured a mouthful of the spirit wine. The mysterious ice jade fire wine was very strong. It was 10 times, no, 100 times stronger than the strongest wine in the secular world. It was extremely strong after drinking it. He said indifferently, "Now I have many things to do. I have no time to care about emotional matters." He paused for a moment and looked at the void. He couldn't help but think of a few beautiful figures. There was Chun-Shi, who was elegant and had the grace of 100 flowers. There was the Zither fairy, Qin Xian, who was elegant and extraordinary. There was the white fox, Su Tianxiang, who was full of natural charm. There was also a hint of slyness in her charm. Each of them could be said to be a peerless beauty that only appeared once in 1,000 years. Logically speaking, having one of them was already a great fortune. On the other hand, he had been in contact with so many peerless women, but he did not dare to think about these things at the moment. He was entangled with so many things, and the myriad demon valley was still in ruins. If he were to divert his energy to feelings, it would only wear away his perseverance and wear away his caltrops. He could only follow the 4 words, "Let nature take its course." Hee, you lunatic. You're really wasting a heavenly treasure. Back in the day, my master roamed the world and had countless beauties following him. When men and women cultivated together, there were great blessings of yin and yang. However, even by my master's side, there were not many who could surpass this Medusa. Dark chuckled strangely and yelled, "Crazy D, if you want, I have the supreme cultivation technique of my master, the yin-yang great compassion poem of heaven and earth. If you learn it, I guarantee you will have 3,000 women and your power will improve greatly. There won't be any hidden dangers." When talking about the method, there was a trace of admiration in his voice. "Shut up." Indra opened his mouth and uttered a sentence. His mind flickered, and the purple mark between his eyebrows sparkled with a strange light, trapping Dark's voice in the purple eye, not allowing it to come out at all. The light in his eyes flickered and gradually deepened. He said with a calm face, "Although I am not against yin and yang dual cultivation, relying on dual cultivation will eventually lead to endless entanglement with love. I disdain it. Love is the word that cares about truth and purity. A heart can be divided into a few parts, but not thousands of parts. If there is desire and no love, it is impossible to achieve the true meaning of dual cultivation. If there is love and desire, the combination of spirit and desire is the Tao of dual cultivation." How can I not know? He was no longer the little black tiger in Tiger Hill. Now, he was a rare expert in the demon clan. He had read thousands of ancient scrolls in the exquisite pagoda and was not ignorant of some cultivation methods. He also had his own views on some cultivation methods. Dual cultivation was a shortcut to cultivation, but it was too easy to indulge in lust, losing one's heart. Most of the time, dual cultivation methods had lost their true meaning. They only knew how to make friends and absorb the essence. However, they did not know that this was just a side way of having desire and no emotion. The true dual cultivation should be the combination of spirit and desire, using affection to turn into affection threads, and using affection threads to integrate into the mind and the inner core. What a powerful dark ice jade fire wine. At this moment, Medusa opened her eyes and sighed softly. Just 1 cup of it increased the demon chi in my body by at least 10 years. My body was also repeatedly refined. It is stronger than before. It is indeed a rare spiritual wine. That black guy and sister here are lucky to drink this kind of spiritual wine often, and their cultivation speed will be several times faster. It is also a rare treasure for laying the foundation. With just 1 cup, she could clearly feel the various benefits of the dark ice jade fire wine. It was not inferior to the monkey wine at all. Moreover, it had the miraculous effect of refining the body. It was a rare treasure. If you want, I still have some. To me, it is not too precious. There is no harm in giving it to you." Hearing this, Tion was not stingy. He patted his storage bag, and 10 gourds appeared on the table. He pushed them in front of Medusa, not caring at all. "Many thanks." Medusa's eyes moved, and she muttered to herself. She thanked him, and with a wave of her hand, she put them all away. "Ayo, quickly run, I will block them. You all escape. Escape into the Cloud Dream Swamp, and you will have a chance to live. Later, you can avenge me." At this moment, the floating cloud boat arrived in the sky above a dense mountain forest. Suddenly, a tragic tiger roar sounded from below. In the sound, there was a strange sadness and also a declining heroism. It sounded more like a kind of despair. When it fell into D. Shirtian's ears, his heart trembled fiercely. A murderous intent burst out from his eyes, and an unknown anger crazily surged out from the bottom of his heart. TSK, you all escape. I want to see where you can escape to. I didn't expect that we would have such luck this time to meet a group of tigers gathered together. This time we will kill all these tiger demons. Their bones are most suitable for refining the white bone origin time banner. Later, we will take their souls out, and the tiger souls of the origin time banner will not need to go to the Thousand Beasts sect to exchange. It will save a lot of money. That's right. Last time, the soul-devouring white bone painting given by Master disappeared in the southern barbarian bone wasteland. The elders in the sect were furious. Fortunately, the sect leader has left the sect for hundreds of years and has not returned. Otherwise, I don't know how many disciples will suffer. This time, refining the white bone origin time banner can't have any more accidents. Otherwise, when Master returns, the fury of thunder is not something we can bear. For a moment, the tiger roar and a burst of strange conversation came from below. Immediately, the floating cloud boat that was originally moving forward quickly stopped in the sky without any warning. Sakura walked out of the boat with an ice-cold expression on his face and looked down. Suddenly, the scene in front of him caused his eyes to emit dense flames of anger. In a mountain forest, a group of dozens of tigers was desperately running forward. Many of these fleeing tigers were newborn tiger cubs. They were about 5 or 6 months old. Among them, there were only 3 or 4 pairs of adult tigers. They were leading those tiger cubs to flee forward quickly. There were still 3 tiger demons with strong demon aura behind them. Looking at their demon aura, they were actually tigers that had already reached the realm of demon beasts. Their bodies carried an imposing manner that was unafraid of death as they stared at the top of their heads. In midair, 3 cultivators wearing black clothes and clearly emitting a strange, evil aura were calmly looking at the fleeing tiger group below. It seemed that they didn't care about their escape at all. They even leisurely chased after them while chatting with interest. It was as if they weren't chasing after them at all, but rather herding a group of sheep that could be slaughtered at any time. Ayo! The 3 demon tigers looked at each other and saw a kind of determination in each other's eyes. They roared and let out tiger roars that shook the sky, shaking the surrounding leaves. They fiercely stomped on the ground and pounced at the 3 cultivators. Every tiger claw was suffused with a metallic luster, and the sharp tiger claws were surrounded by a thick layer of black demon aura. It was enough to tear gold and split stone. The imposing manner that pounced was incomparably fierce, containing the deterrent force of the king of beasts. The claws that swung out were all aimed at the vital parts of the 3 cultivators. TSK, this group of kittens is really cute. They know that they can't hurt us, but they still make these useless attacks time and time again. How boring. One of the cultivators with a very pale face looked at the demon tiger that was pouncing at him and took a thick beast bone of unknown name in his hand and knocked it on the head. In the pale white light, a strange evil force effortlessly slapped the tiger that was in midair down. It crashed heavily on the ground. What's so strange about that? The demon race is just a bunch of animals. Even if they have intelligence, they're still stupid. No matter how much they cultivate, they can't compare to us humans. If it weren't for the 8 demon kings, they would have been wiped out hundreds of times already. A relatively short dwarf shouted disdainfully. Ayo! The 3 demon tigers let out mournful roars. Their eyes were filled with madness as they used various methods to charge at the 3 cultivators in the air. However, each time, they were easily swatted down by the 3 cultivators. It was as if they were playing a game of cat and mouse. This was a completely unbalanced battle, revealing a deep sense of sadness. The demon beasts in the world had lost their inheritance. Although these 3 demon tigers had the cultivation of demon beasts, they did not have the corresponding strength. Even how they used their strength was quite primitive. They had no secret techniques, no attack methods. They could only bite with their teeth, tear with their claws, smash with their bodies, and smash with their heads. Compared to Di Shirtian's original opportunity, it also showed the current situation of the demon beasts. Although they were slapped down again and again, they did not retreat a single step. Knowing that they were no match for the enemy, knowing that they would die, they still did not retreat. Just as the three cultivators had slapped the three demon tigers down for the nth time, a cold snort that seemed capable of freezing the entire air rang out. An incomparably overbearing and tyrannical aura swept out and rushed towards the three cultivators. For a moment, the three cultivators did not even have the time to react. They felt as though the air around them had suddenly solidified. Their bodies became incomparably heavy, bound by a terrifyingly powerful aura. They could not move at all. Their minds trembled violently, as though a calamity would befall them at any moment. In an instant, what should have happened to the three demon tigers below, who had been teased all this time, mysteriously happened to them. Shock flooded their minds in an instant. At the same time, their faces became incomparably pale, and they fearfully looked towards the sky. Senior, please have mercy. I don't know if this junior has offended you in any way. Please let this junior off for the sake of the Whitebone sect. The shorty was the most clever. His eyes turned and saw that a spirit boat had appeared above his head without him knowing. A man and a woman were standing on the spirit boat. The man's expression was even colder, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He quickly opened his mouth and shouted. His words were carefully thought out. First, he put on the label of senior. Even if he had offended them, he was a senior and could not bully the weak. Second, he pointed out the name of his sect. Naturally, he would use the name of his sect to make the newcomer feel apprehensive. Unfortunately, his calculations were destined to be wrong. The person in front of them was not a senior from the cultivation world. Instead, it was the demon clan that they had just ridiculed and belittled. Sakura didn't say much. His body shook, and waves of ink-black, demonic aura gushed out from the countless pores on his body. The dense demonic aura spread out in all directions without any concealment. The demonic aura rolled, and a huge black tiger condensed above his head. Its two cold tiger eyes fell on the three cultivators. With just a glance, the three cultivators felt their hearts turn cold. They only felt that their bodies were frozen, and they could not even circulate their true essence. Their eyes were filled with despair. They never thought that they would meet a demon clan member. The power of this glance was something that they could imagine with their toes. They were afraid that they had met a true expert of the demon clan. You are the demon king. A stuttering voice came out from the cultivator's mouth. He was so scared that his face turned deathly pale. This aura, it's a senior of the tiger clan. The three tigers who had originally wanted to stop the cultivators in their tracks, in despair, only reacted to the sudden reversal. Among the same species, they could always sense each other more clearly. When they saw the black tiger condensed from demonic chi above Di Shirtian's head, and the extremely dense demonic chi all over his body, their originally sorrowful eyes suddenly brightened. They fell to their knees and kowtowed to Di Shirtian. Their cries were mixed with sobs. They were crying tears of joy. Don't cry. All of you get up. As members of the tiger clan, as the kings of all beasts, crying is a sign of cowardice. You were forced to flee everywhere by a few puny core formation cultivators, and you have the nerve to cry. If you're the sons of the tiger clan, then fight back for this king and kill them. Di Shirtian's gaze fell on the three tigers, and he spat out a sentence with great force. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 352. Di Shirtian spat out a sentence filled with dominance. The purple mark on his forehead flickered, and 3 rays of purple light instantly shot out, crossing the boundary of the void and arriving in front of the 3 demon tigers in an instant, landing on the king mark on their foreheads. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, countless amounts of demonic chi madly gushed out from the pores of their bodies, condensing outside their bodies. In an instant, their bodies were like balloons, violently inflating. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, they had swelled to over 100 feet tall, and their demonic chi was like clouds, violently surging. At the same time, waves of hatred appeared in their eyes, and they turned to glare at the three imprisoned cultivators in midair. Go, kill them, use their blood to wash away the anger in your hearts, and use their lives to witness your growth. When Tirtian saw that the three multicolored demon tigers were already exuding a strong demonic chi, exuding an intense battle intent, he nodded inwardly, but his mouth showed no trace of expression as he spoke. This isn't fair, this isn't fair. Seeing the three demon tigers, who had been toyed with by them, suddenly undergo earth-shattering changes in the blink of an eye, their bodies instantly expanded dozens of times, and their demonic chi surged violently, surging fiercely. Baring their fangs, they walked over step by step. An invisible pressure fell on the three cultivators. Immediately, their faces changed greatly, and they were as pale as a sheet of white paper. In a situation where they were unable to move, if the three demon tigers approached them, they would definitely be torn to pieces in an instant. With fear on their faces, they shouted loudly, "You're the demon king of the demon clan. You can't bully the weak like this. Aren't you afraid that you'll lose face if word of this spreads?" The pale-faced cultivator also shouted loudly. Tirtian glanced indifferently at them and said, "I'll give you a chance to fight with them. If you win, this king will make an exception and spare your lives. If you lose, He didn't continue, but the chilling coldness in his words had thoroughly expressed his intentions. As soon as his voice fell, the restraints on the three cultivators disappeared in the same way they appeared. Run! The three cultivators did not hesitate in the slightest. As soon as the bindings were released, they turned around and fled in the opposite direction. They mustered all of their strength and desperately fled. They didn't have any intention of fighting the three tigers. In their minds, the one in front of them was a demon king that they didn't even have the strength to fight back. If they stayed here and fought with the three tigers, they would die if they lost. If they won, they might still be ground to dust by the demon king. It was better to escape on the spot. There was still a slight chance of survival. When they were escaping, they were very skillful. They split up into three different directions. It could be seen that they were very experienced in this aspect. Bang! However, Sakura only looked at them with a cold smile and didn't stop them. He looked on helplessly as they had just escaped 10 feet away. Their bodies that were flying at high speed were suddenly smashed into the void, as if they had smashed into an invisible mountain. One after another, they let out a muffled groan and fell onto the ground. He was seeing stars, and his head was spinning. Roar! At this time, the three tigers, whose bodies had swelled to more than 100 feet tall, emitted a bloodthirsty light at the same time. They opened their bloody mouths, revealing a mouthful of fangs. They sucked fiercely in front of them. A gust of wind rose from the ground and was instantly swallowed into their stomachs. Their bodies swelled again, and a strong aura of the king of beasts swept wildly from their bodies. They raised their heads and opened their mouths to let out an incomparably domineering tiger roar. As soon as the tiger roar came out, the surrounding trees seemed to be swept away by a gust of wind. Countless leaves were shaken and fell to the ground. Invisible ripples shook the void in this shocking roar and spread out in all directions. It was like waves crashing toward the three cultivators with mountain-toppling force. The tiger roar was so powerful that it was like thousands of thunderbolts raging. It was so loud that it was deafening. The three cultivators, who were already dizzy from the collision, were not prepared for this. They only felt the continuous roaring in their heads, as if their minds were about to be shaken to pieces. Blood flowed out of their ears. Then the invisible sound waves in the air hit their bodies wave after wave. Their bodies felt like they were being struck by lightning. However, they did not know what kind of treasure the black clothes they were wearing were, but they actually emitted bursts of black light and blocked the shocking power of the sound waves. However, their internal organs were shaken violently in an instant. Their blood and chi were tumbling, and it was so uncomfortable that they were about to vomit blood. In an instant, they were injured on top of their injuries. 7th junior brother, 8th junior brother, fight it out with them. This tiger roar also shook them awake. Their hearts were full of fear, but they also realized their current situation in an instant. They were, after all, some ruthless characters. Seeing that there was no way to escape, they were stimulated to be ruthless. Beast spirit, come out. The 3 cultivators held the same white bone in their hands. It was like a long thorn, and it was very strange. At this time, they all shouted and formed a seal, imprinting it into the bone thorn. In an instant, the bone thorn emitted a strange pale light and trembled violently. It was as if there was a life inside, and it emitted a terrifying, trembling sound. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 bone thorns flashed in the wind. From the bone thorns, 3 huge wolves, the size of houses, and their bodies emitted pale, white ghost fire, suddenly sprang out. The moment these huge ghost wolves appeared, their eyes emitted a green light. They stared at the demon tigers. Their bodies were not weaker than them at all. Waves of wolf howls came from their mouths to block the sound waves, and they rushed over like lightning. The tiger was the king of beasts. Among the beasts, it was a natural king. It never feared any battle. Once it saw these ghost wolves rushing over, it emitted waves of sound waves and an invisible deterrence from its body. It fiercely rushed over and immediately fought with the 3 ghost wolf-like beast spirits. Demonic aura billowed, and the roars were endless. The ghost wolves' bodies seemed to be very illusory. They were not real. The tiger claws tore them apart, and they could reform in the blink of an eye. They were not afraid at all. However, the sound waves of the tiger's roar could shake their bodies and dissipate their power. It seems that the immortal cultivation world has already begun to encircle and annihilate the weak demon clansmen. Who knows how many demons that have just been born with spirituality have been killed like this? Medusa's face became a little ugly. Looking at the tiger clan below, she thought of the other demon clansmen on the mainland who were also suffering the same fate. If the tigers in front of them had not met them, it was likely that they would not have been able to escape the fate of being slaughtered. The coldness in D. Shirtian's eyes became more and more intense. All this time, he had been extremely disgusted by the immortal cultivation world's bullying of the demon clan. At this moment, when he saw the tiger clan below being teased by the 3 cultivators like a cat playing with a mouse, a nameless anger crazily burned in his body. This was a kind of anger that came from his bloodline. It was a kind of nameless sorrow. No matter what happened in his previous life, in this life, he was a demon. His blood flowed with the blood of the king of beasts. Seeing his fellow clansmen being chased in such a sorry state, that kind of anger almost burned everything. Everything was burned to ashes. The desire to make the demon clan rise to power was unprecedentedly strong. Even if it's not for anything else, just for my clan, just for my family, I will definitely create an iron bucket of mountains and mountains. I will build a force that no one dares to look down on. I will make it so that no cultivator will dare to easily kill the demon clan and wantonly steal their inner cores. I will pull out their tendons and pull out their bones. At some unknown time, D. Shirtian's fists were tightly clenched, making crisp sounds. However, his expression did not change in the slightest as he said resolutely, "There will come a day when the cultivation world will regret it. I will make them regret it. With me here, let's see who dares to slaughter the tiger clan again. If they kill a tiger, I will exterminate their entire clan." His words revealed a bone-chilling coldness. There was also an indomitable decisiveness in his voice. When Medusa heard this, she glanced at him. However, she did not agree nor refute him. She truly could not imagine what kind of strength was required to achieve such a step. Without that kind of mighty strength that stood at the peak, how could one have that kind of power that could deter all living things? With a faint smile, she looked down at the battle below and said thoughtfully, "Those 3 cultivators are core formation cultivators after all. Although you passed on your tiger roar sound wave to them and gave them the method to use the demonic energy in their bodies, they still haven't familiarized themselves with their own strength. I'm afraid that it will be difficult to truly kill them." She had long seen that the 3 purple rays that Tion shot at the 3 demon tigers actually contained some inheritance. In the inheritance, there should be some method to use demonic energy. Then there was the tiger roar sound wave technique that Tion relied on to kill enemies in his early years. Although the tiger roar sound wave technique was an innate attack technique of the tiger clan, it was difficult to use it without knowing how to use demonic energy. However, once there was a method to use it, it could be instinctively and quickly mastered. "It's fine." Tion waved his hand and said, "I want them to fight to kill the cultivators. Using battle, using blood as a baptism to stimulate the bloodlust and battle intent in their bodies. As members of the Tiger Clan, how can they not kill? With a fearless battle intent, their achievements in the future will definitely not stop at this realm." An indescribable sense of responsibility welled up in her heart. As a member of the Tiger Clan, seeing her own clansmen being hunted down so pathetically, her heart was fiercely touched. Inadvertently, she realized that her own kind was being hunted down and killed. That was a very sad feeling. Almost instantly, she made a decision in her heart. No matter what, she had to do her best and let the Tiger Clan become the true kings of the beasts. At the same time, she also had to become the royal clan of the Demon Clan. 3 demonic tigers of the demonic beast level were fighting with 3 strange beast spirits. These beast spirits were very strange. Not only did their bodies seem to be illusory and difficult to damage, just like ghosts, but their claws were also very sharp. When the claws landed on their bodies, it immediately left a few deep wounds that exposed the bones. Blood was dripping. However, the beast spirits were also continuously shaken by the tiger roar. Their bodies became more and more illusory, as if they would disappear at any time. The 3 cultivators also controlled their bone spikes to attack them from time to time. The 3 demon tigers were at a disadvantage. Their bodies were dripping with blood and covered with various wounds. Ding-dang, ding-dang. Just as the battle was at its most intense, suddenly, a sound like metal being dragged on the ground rang out from afar without warning. The sound was continuous. Amidst the sound, there was a gust of cold qi that rushed towards them. Accompanying it was the sound of heavy footsteps. Something's not right. Tion glanced at Medusa and frowned slightly. Then, he looked to his left, and his expression turned unusually serious. Amidst this strange sound, amidst the qi that rushed towards them, there was a kind of strange aura. Even his heart violently contracted as a strong sense of danger rose within him. Strong, what a strong aura. Who is this? Tion looked towards the direction of the sound as a thought flashed through his mind. He looked at the battle below and the dozens of tigers that had gathered again. He stretched out his hand and grabbed downwards. Under his claw, the entire air seemed to have solidified in an instant, as if it was squeezed in his palm. The 3 demon tigers that were originally bathed in blood and tearing at each other were simultaneously pulled up by an invisible force. They could not resist at all. In the blink of an eye, the scene in front of them changed. When they looked again, they had already appeared on the floating cloud boat. The boat was very spacious, and there was no difficulty in accommodating them. There was also no feeling of crowding. Senior, the 3 demon tigers were obviously the leaders of the tiger group. Seeing Tion standing in front of them, their eyes immediately showed respect and expectation. "From today onwards, you will call me King." Tion glanced at them. He slightly nodded and said, "What I gave you before was the cultivation method of my tiger clan before condensing the inner core. From now on, You will circulate your demon power according to the method of tiger roar technique and concentrate on cultivation. What he had given them was the tiger roar technique that he had obtained from the bloodline inheritance. For the tiger clan, this was the most suitable cultivation method for laying the foundation. He didn't say anything else after he had said this. He merely stood in the void. His mind moved, and he gathered the clouds and the surroundings. Then, the floating cloud ship was completely hidden in the clouds. He stood in the clouds and observed the scene below. I can feel that there is a very powerful expert in that direction. I am not his match. Medusa also looked towards the direction where the strange sound of metal and the dull sound of footsteps were constantly coming from. Her expression suddenly became dignified as she said, "What's going on? Why did those 3 demon beasts suddenly disappear? And that demon king is also gone. Could it be that we're fine? Haha. As I said, the demon clan is already on the verge of extinction. How could they still dare to clash with our immortal cultivation sects? Didn't they still leave with their tails between their legs? However, we should hurry back to avoid any more accidents." Tion suddenly took away all the tigers. The 3 white-boned sect disciples, who were still focusing all their energy on the battle, were shocked for a while. They found it hard to believe that they could escape with their lives so easily. At the same time as they were shocked, they were also overjoyed. But in the blink of an eye, the thought of leaving quickly arose. However, when they turned around to escape, they found that the invisible restriction around them was still there. There was an incomparably tough barrier in the invisible air. There was no way to break it. Clink! At this moment, the sound of metal colliding became even clearer. When they heard it again, it seemed that there was a strange magic in this sound. When they heard it, even their souls would be shaken. It was like a kind of soul-stealing, demonic sound. Their minds couldn't help but be attracted. Crash! The 3 cultivators also heard the strange sound. They wanted to quickly leave this place, but they were trapped in this small area. In front of them was a small hill. Behind the hill was the location of the sound. What is it? What is it? This sound is even causing my soul to leave my body. It's too scary. It's even scarier than the Demon King. How despicable. He must know that a powerful expert is coming, but he's still bound us here. He wants to kill with a borrowed knife. What the hell is this sound? My body is emitting cold air. For a moment, the 3 cultivators gathered together and stared at the hill in horror. Crash! Patter! In the blink of an eye, the strange sound seemed to ring in their ears. Heavy footsteps seemed to cause the hill to tremble. A tall and sturdy figure walked out from behind the hill. It's a human. He was very tall and sturdy. He was more than 2 meters tall and had a strong physique. At first glance, one would have the illusion of looking at a small giant. He was wearing a pitch-black, tight-fitting suit. His pitch-black long hair was messily draped over his shoulders, wantonly fluttering in the wind. His perfect muscles were completely exposed under the tight-fitting suit. It was filled with explosive power. His muscles were like coiling dragons. That might was enough to shock most cultivators with weak wills. The strangest thing was that on his back, there was a strange black coffin that looked like a black crystal. The black coffin emitted strands of black gas, and there were countless strange and mysterious talismans on it. They were densely packed and distributed on every inch of the black coffin. It was even more sinister. On the black coffin, 9 black iron chains as thick as water arms stretched out and bound the burly man's body, arms, legs, chest, and neck. His abdomen and other parts of his body were all wrapped by these strange iron chains. The iron chains were filled with the same black gas that enveloped his entire body. The long iron chains dragged on the ground, and when they moved, they naturally emitted strange metallic sounds. From head to toe, this strange burly man had a strange aura that didn't seem like a living person. It was like a corpse that crawled out from the underworld. If one looked carefully, one could see that wherever the burly man walked, the grass and trees on the ground withered and turned into ashes. The ground turned black and withered. It was as if it had been burned. All life was extinguished. Corpse chi. This is corpse chi. What a terrifying corpse chi. It can actually destroy all things. All life is gone in an instant. Shirtian's heart was in turmoil. He stared blankly at the burly man carrying the black coffin with a horrified expression. That black gas wasn't demonic gas. It carried a deathly aura. Wherever it passed, as long as it touched something, all life would be sucked out and all things would be extinguished. However, there seemed to be a trace of life in the black coffin. It was very strange. When this person appeared, the three cultivators who had been feeling uneasy all this time seemed to have seen the most inconceivable thing in the world. Their eyes suddenly widened, and their mouths opened unconsciously, revealing a stunned expression. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.